like that, we back. It is Unpacked, presented by the To Be Fair Show and
the G Shit Podcast.
And we got another good one for y'all. I think we had episode 15. We made it 15 weeks strong. This week we're going to talk about Juneteenth. I'm sure it's going to lead us into some slavery conversations, some reparation conversations, and just kind of a litany of different things. But before we hop into the conversation, love for everybody to introduce themselves. Start with G.
What's good, everybody? It's G, host of the G Shit Podcast. Make sure y'all check that out wherever you get your podcasts. Follow at GSHPOD. Hi.
All right, beside him, A Black.
Yo, what's up? It's your boy A Black. Follow me at Mayor of Charlotte. Happy to be here for the conversation today. Let's do it.
Yep. Below him, Trey. Talk to him.
What's up, y'all? I'm FBA Trey on this podcast. I'm just a guest here, doing my best to be a good advocate and diplomat for this FBA cultural movement we got popping.
All right. Last but not least, talk to him, Johnny.
What up? It's your boy Johnny P, host of the To Be Fair Show. Sunday 4 p.m. You can find me at Johnny P Newton. Check us out. Hit the like button. Comment below. Tap into the chat. Definitely looking forward to a great discussion again.
Gotcha. And I guess first things first, just starting off. It is Juneteenth, but I believe over this past weekend there was a Juneteenth rally that happened in DC. Trey, I'll let you talk to us. Did you make it down? What did you hear? Was it talking points? Talk to us.
What's good? Nah, I didn't make it down there. First off, happy Juneteenth to everybody on here. And everyone listening. I didn't make it down there. I just had to put a little something on, on the tab or whatever. Not on the tab, but pay a little something to it. And I watched a lot of the feedback. It looked like it was a really good event. You saw a lot of young brothers coming together on one accord, like moving stages, being a good representation. Kind of like, I want to compare it to like the Million Man March, but just another example of Black people coming, like trying to represent Black people as best as possible, be politically sophisticated, and again, just all come together on one accord. So that was a beautiful thing. I think this is the second annual one, and the next one they're saying will be around Juneteenth in Atlanta.
All right, bet. Had a quick clip from him, so I play and then we can get back to it.
Committed war crimes and paid the people they committed war crimes against. In World War II, when they bombed Europe, did they have a Marshall Plan that they gave them money for? Did they give money to Japan? They even gave money to Vietnam. They gave money to the Iran hostages in 1979. You understand that? They gave money to the victims of 9/11. But when it comes to us, everybody wants to act like they don't know how to give us the compensation we're supposed to get. And we're saying no more. Now, family, we're not going to take any excuses that people give us when it comes to reparations. When it comes to giving us our reparations, everybody wants to play dumb and ask these dumb questions like, Tariq, you in this reparations, listen, why should I be punished for something that I didn't do?
All right, so nonetheless, a quick snippet of some of the conversation, some of the rally. I think I forget some of the speakers that he had up there. Trey, I'm sure you're a little bit more versed in that.
Yeah, they had Alpha Elite, Black Alpha Network. Y'all should definitely check them out. They're activists for for political movements. They speak a lot on this election coming up and our history and things like that. And they also had Dr. Randy Short, who he is an expert on a lot of the Black indigenous history and puts together lectures and things like that. And they also had Vicky Dillard there. Those are all the ones I can think off the top of my head.
Gotcha. I'm trying to think of the Muslim brother that he had, but nonetheless.
No, my fault. Brother RZA Islam.
Yeah, RZA. That's his name, RZA. Yeah. I know he had RZA up there.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. So, any update? What's the next plan of action? It's a rally, so I imagine that there was like some order of like what people trying to do to get these reparations passed.
Well, the way he described it was kind of like a pet rally before a big game, where the pet rally isn't like when you're on the field putting the points up, but they're saying that this like networking, because a lot of these people, they communicate online, but this is the first time they're actually able to get together and meet face to face. So when they're able to do that and network together, that's when they're talking about setting up different cells across the country and try to put more boots to ground to implement some of these things that we're working to get accomplished.
Gotcha. Panel, any perspective, thoughts? Niggas ain't fucking with the rally for reparations, it sounds like. All right.
Yo, my fault. Can I comment on the somebody said I bet no politician showed up to it. I think that is any grassroots movement, politicians don't really show up if it's because this proved that people are willing to drive across country, drive miles, get plane ticket, and all get together because this is important to them. Versus they had another reparations rally across the street that was set up by Black Lives Matter and some Democrat institutes, and nobody showed up to that. So what they did with the Tweet and Sheet reparations rally was purely grassroots, and there's a lot of enthusiasm there. So I think the first step before, like, politicians aren't just going to come and do anything for you. You have to show that there is are people behind that are willing to go in motion for it. So I think that was the purpose of this rally, and it was bigger than last year. Last year was the first one that was kind of thrown together last minute, so it was much smaller. But this year there were thousands of people there, so the momentum's there. So, but also real quick, they said they were having trouble with getting things set. Like there's a lot of red tape. They weren't allowed to sell anything, sell any food, sell any T-shirts or anything like that. And I think they put a lot of money towards security on their own. They had some of the Nation of Islam out there running security for them, had security detail for everyone. So I'm saying it's a real for them to not get any money from outside users. Outside sources or any political thing or any Democrats or anything like that, and put it all together. It's just kind of like a show of force kind of thing, to where it's a growing, budding movement. So we'll see where it goes.
Gotcha. And so I guess I'll ask this quick question, and then we can hop off of the reparation conversation. Would reparations move the needle inside the fight for equality here in America? Inside whichever version that we're saying will be given, or is there other things, just other variables that are as important, or if not more important?
You're saying, will it move the needle?
Well, and by move needle, not meaning like, of course, it'll do something. Would it swing the pendulum to the other side?
Yeah, man. One quote that Professor Black Jason Black always says is, "They hate us because we're black, but they victimize us because we're poor." So if we're economically empowered, then that'll that'll allow us to create our own institutions, so we don't have to go to them for everything. Because right now we can't even really do a boycott, because if we don't go through them, we don't really have the services to even build anything our own in our own community. So that's because we've been impoverished through them burning down all of our towns, dozens across the nations, preventing us from getting loans, preventing us from getting homes, barring us out of education. Even the bar was set up because before that you didn't have to get a legal license, but they set things up, institutions specifically, to hold us back. So if the goal was to impoverish us, and then reparations undoes that, then I think it'll definitely move the needle, but it will never be able to repay what was done to us. Where I was just listening to a program where they said that a person was literally enslaved until the 1960s because they couldn't run, basically the sharecropping situation where they aren't allowed to leave the plantation, and then they were running the big house. They made the girls go up there and then do what they did back in those old times, and then they would beat them up in public and that type of thing. So I just say all that to say that We are so Juneteenth reminds us that was so recently, and the economic impoverishment was so detrimental that, of course, reparations is really the only answer. Like, we're gonna have to get what was taken from us one way or another. So, long story long, but if that
Gotcha,
answers the question.
gotcha. I guess everybody else, do y'all believe that reparations is the only answer?
I mean, I think it can be part of the answer. I don't think the only answer, but like Trey say, like economically, it does move the needle because it's going to be an influx of cash and buying power. Not that we don't have buying power now, we do have a lot of it, but I think even more, it kind of gives us more room, margin for error, so to say. Not to say it's gonna fix everything overnight, or I don't think it's a one stop.
And how much money are y'all talking about when we say money to move the needle?
$14 trillion real quick. The number they're saying is $14 trillion.
What does that break down to, like, per person?
14 trillion divided by how many are there? 40 million? 13 million?
Or maybe 40.
I don't know.
It's 13%.
I don't know.
So-
We have to do some quick math. But it's not going to be all at like one lump sum payment, though. It'll be, continuous payments. So per person. I don't know. How many black people in America?
Oh, I don't have the statistic off the top of my head. While you looking it up, I guess G and A Black, whichever one of y'all want to go. Is reparations the only answer?
Nah, it's not the only answer for sure. I think it's like I said, I don't even know if it is an answer more than it is just a debt that's owed. Like I feel like I feel like if somebody owe me money, like there's nothing else to talk about. You owe me, right? Like it don't matter if it's the only answer or whatever. If you owe me bread, pay back the bread. That's just that simple. So I feel like reparations is a debt that is owed to Black Americans, more so specifically those who can relate or tie back to slavery times, right? So is it the only answer? No. Is it even a answer? Maybe, but it is unquestionably a debt to be paid. Like that's the bottom line. We're owed those.
A Black, same question to you.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely not the only answer. It will change something. I don't really know what, but I mean, definitely will change something for sure. But like G was saying, it's just paying the debt. Like, I always kind of criticize what we would do if we got individual payments, based on our financial education. But at the end of the day, it don't matter because, like you say, it's owed to somebody. So some people might take their money and get LLC and shit, and some people might go get some Chargers and Challengers. But at the end of the day, it's their money.
Hellcats everywhere, nigga. What are we talking about? They gonna be all over the road.
Hey, bro, what's that gonna do for the economy, bro? We would save the American economy with our spending.
But then I think if we spend it on like that level of horrible fiscal, like material things, we'll be right back in the same position though.
We're gonna be
But not all of us.
cars and American cars, anything. But I will say,
I think to give us $14 trillion, it is going to some kind of way hurt the economy first, though. I mean, that's just. I mean, they probably have it, and they come up with a lot of. With $14 trillion isn't nothing, to sneeze at. Like either way you look at it, even in like the sense of like our fiscal, budget every year, $14 trillion is a dent in that. And when it comes to the economy, we as a country may take a hit. There may be more inflation, depending on how they come up with the money and where they're going to, fund it from. Is it just printing money? We'll have to figure out where the money comes from. So, to kind of help mitigate the fact that it's a big chunk of our GDP.
Do you think it'll hurt us worse than the free money that they're giving to illegal immigrants and the free money that they're giving to Israel, everything like that? Like, because they're giving out free money all the time, just not to us.
Ukraine.
Yeah. So
Yeah, you
just give us that amount.
Oh, but that's what I'm saying.
No.
You have to figure out how we're going to do it. If they keep on giving the money to everybody and then try to give it to us, that's not efficient. That is going to do damage. If they cut back the spending in a lot of places, cut back, international warfare and a lot of stuff they're doing, they didn't do it. It makes a lot more sense. But I think that part of it matters a lot too.
Y'all want to know? Y'all want to know 17 trillion divided by black folks in America is approximately 40 million black folks. That's about just over $400 million per black person. And that's just black person. So that probably includes Africans too, with the 40 million people.
Well, I thought it looked well, I guess the other map that I seen was like around almost 400,000, I think.
That's what I got too. 14 trillion divided by 36.2 million.
What number y'all got?
386.
Look at the private chat. It's in the private chat.
Is it million or thousand? You know, niggas it is zero.
It's 400,000.
Yeah, I think it's 400,000.
Okay, word.
All black people getting 400 million. Man.
All black people getting 400,000 ain't even really like that. Like we got to be honest. That's not even a,
that's a house.
But I would say, like, if we was to want to do something in a real structural way to impact, if everybody did get that, everybody buying a house would be really impactful.
And per household, that'd be times 4.
But look at how supply and demand works. Like the if everybody had that amount of money to go to the housing market, then all of a sudden people can't afford those homes because they're competing with each other. The prices go up, and now you price it out, similar to like COVID when all that free money was going out, interest rates was low. It drives the cost up.
Maybe, but I think that it's a pulley system where if we all get 400,000, the market is inside a really weird space because nobody else did. It's kind of how like the cash buyers came over from California to like the East Coast pretty much during COVID. And there was like a big reason why a lot of the housing market ended up going up, but they first had to land here because you had all the California niggas that had higher that was working from home but got paid a lot more, that was able to pretty much run up the offer rates or whatever. But I would guess that like it would go up to where maybe like 400,000 doesn't get you just a house, but you might still be within a 600,000 range. But you got 400,000 of a down payment and 200,000. Like, long story less long, white people were hurt if the housing market just skyrockets as well, and it would hurt worse than black people.
Yeah.
I don't know if black people were hurt if we all got 400K in the bank.
Well, I mean, like hypothetically, if it went up to one, like if Charlotte went to California, when it comes down to the housing market, where like a house like mine is probably like 1.3 million in California. And go ahead.
So that's another interesting about it, because I think if black people were that empowered, a lot of these systems that you see that are messed up would be totally different. Because the only reason that I think reparations for black Americans would save the world. Because like right now we're talking about like save Palestine and all that. But as black people, we don't have any power to do anything about that. We don't have power to force our will on anything. So
well, I hope we wouldn't be
people,
trying to save Palestine without reparations.
I mean, but that's just of course, good point. But that's just one quick example of how like black Americans, the things that we do, like our innovation, everything that's stifled because we're not financially empowered. If we're financially empowered, then we would be able to actualize a lot of our inventions that are always taken away from us. So I think we would see a totally different atmosphere than we see today. So we have to like kind of think beyond like a white controlled society and look at it from the position of black people being able to do, because we don't have a history of like all this barbarism and this greed. Like everything that we know about the West is not black, is not a source of black people. We never colonized anybody. We don't have any desire to do that. We're like kind of some other people.
And Trey, I think you led us to a really good segue where one of our panelists has just landed back in the States. He had a fun. How long was you out there? About a week, 2 weeks?
9 days.
9 days, and he was on the continent. Love to give you just give us like a quick little recap of we have a lot of these Pan-African versus FBA and all these different conversations where you actually took the time to kind of go put your feet on the motherland and kind of experience the people. Yeah, just a quick recap. What it left you kind of feeling?
Yeah, man. So this is my fifth time to Africa. My third time to Nairobi, Kenya in particular. I mean, and every time is different. But one thing I'm intentional about, I try to have these conversations with people of our peer group out there to kind of get their thoughts on a lot of things. And it's always just interesting conversations to kind of see really how tapped in that a lot of them are to our culture, to our issues, how a lot of our activism from Black Americans influences, their activism. Like right now, Kenya just had a big protest. I don't know if y'all saw that out there with them raising prices. Like the president had raised the prices like by 200% on things.
Oh shit!
Essentially trying to, take away that whole thing of our money is long out there and trying to compete with other markets by, raising these prices. So he raised the prices by 200%. And then after backlash, he lowered them by 30%. And then kind of like, put himself out there as his hero. Like, look, I lowered it by 30%, but you had raised it to 200 first. So really, it's a markup on everything, bread, milk. So, they out in the streets protesting the cost of living because, we can go out there and live good, but they're not making the money to match the cost of living that that their bureaucrats are trying to push upon them. So, they got.
Quick question.
Yeah.
So with that, are they doing that to kind of stop I guess it'd be immigration?
Nah. So they don't really have too much immigration. And that's the issue out there as well is intercontinental travel. You'll find a lot of Africans who can't go over to the next country because they make it so difficult for them. So a lot of Africans, they like, you more African than me. You done been here, you've been there and stuff. Because they, their visa process, their passport process, it's just crazy for them to even go next door. Like Uganda is next to Kenya and Rwanda is next to Kenya. And they just have crazy, border crossing laws. And, so you would think it's heavy immigration, but it's not. So it limits some countries because they can't really collaborate like they should. So they're working on it in some parts and creating different unions of countries and lessening visa protocols. But yeah, so that's one side. And of course I partied. It was my birthday too. And I'm usually not a big partier, but I was kind of like intentional about like, let me try to have fun and see what their social scene and nightlife is like. And it's popping, man. Like I can't even front. Like they got some very nice venues and rooftop bars, and just the contrast of the slums to the fly shit is very stark in Africa. Of course, I know you've been, so you can be in a slum one minute and with some dignitaries the next on the next street. So that contrast a wealth gap is huge out there. But Nairobi in particular just progressed. Like I said, this is the third time I've been there since 2020. And it's just like leaving Charlotte for 3 months and you come back and like, damn, when they built this, like they are just rapidly growing. And then they're also building what they call the Savannah Valley, which is trying to make this portion of Kenya the Silicon Valley of Africa. They have all this tech driven instruction going on there. all these tech jobs, and they're making that like the tech center for IT, for software engineering in Africa right now. So anybody that's into that, and you might want to transition, that's about to be the new spot that's really booming right now. They call it the Savannah Valley, and it's like basically the African Silicon Valley right now. So that's that. The women are amazing. I don't know if nobody's single on the panel, but I had a great time with them. I don't know if I got all of my close friends. I only put the dudes in my close friends when I travel.
Oh yeah. No, I seen a couple of things.
Judgy, but yeah, I was in rare form this time. I really couldn't even film like I wanted to.
Nah, I heard you was like a rapper out there just popping bottles.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't intentional. Now, women will run your bill up, but it don't be as high. Because what they do, you meet a girl, she dope, you invite her out, and what she does, she invite all her friends. And so, you in VIP with like 8 girls.
None of them drugged you while you was out there?
No.
Oh, okay.
I probably was drugging them.
We don't need that on the internet. Clear that one up. Go ahead and clear that up. Go ahead.
I have my little gummies and stuff like that,
Okay, you're talking about cannabis, CBD, or like any of those items.
Yeah, cannabis gummies.
Yeah.
Shrooms and whatnot. That's really all I deal with. But that was a good thing. And, of course, the nature, the hiking, the waterfalls, all that's beautiful. But yeah, man, it was dope. Like, and then so I also like to try to like meet people's families and stuff. So in the Muslim culture, they just celebrated Eid out there. So I kind of got to see what that was like with a real Muslim family during an actual big holiday. They all came out. They cooked all this food. It was like a lot of love, and they was talking Swahili and shit. But I was chilling. So yeah, that was dope too. So
okay, no, I dig it. I dig it. Well,
yo, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So man, that's very interesting because you were saying like the disparity between like the economic disparity between the gap was so large. It's got to be like we're used to, the 1% in America is typically doesn't look like the bottom percentage in America, but over there it's like, do they look at the poor people, do the rich, powerful elite, do they look at the poor people the same way that like the elite look at black people here, even though they're both black?
So it's different in Nairobi. The rich, the white, the powerful, they're very insulated. Like they have their own area. They don't really kind of venture out too much. When they do, they're in their dark cars. They just driving through. So they can kind of like, it's kind of like people here who live in Ballantyne who can never go to Vegas 4 if they really don't want to. You can go your whole life not going to Vegas 4. I've met people like that. They've just been in Ballantyne forever. But then in Senegal, which in West Africa, their poor and rich live together. So like you might have a nice crib in Senegal, and it might have an alleyway that poor people might sleep in and stuff like that. But they don't kick them out or harass them. They'll give them food and money. Like they're part of the community. So it's different depending on the countries that I've seen. Egypt was the worst. Like I ain't never seen nothing like that. And it's not even really black Africa up there. It's more of
the Arab
Arabian influence, invasion energy out there. But the poverty I saw in Egypt, it was like, let me get my picture by these pyramids and get the fuck up out of here.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard that. Like if you turn your camera around from where the pyramid's at and you look the other way, it look kind of crazy.
It's crazy out there, and like they relentless with the begging. I mean, you gonna get that everywhere, but in Egypt, like that shit, like I had like probably 20 kids following me.
Like black or Arab kids?
Oh, Arab. I hardly saw any black people out there. That's the only place I ever got called a nigga in my life was in Egypt. But I don't.
shit.
They call it like nigga. They didn't call you Abib or whatever the nigga in Arabic.
It was kids, but I think they were saying it. I know they were saying it in a way they thought it was cool.
Oh, what's up, my nigga?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, cool. They didn't really get it. I just like let it go. But I could tell that they didn't mean it like, you know, Mississippi nigga type shit. It was on some, what up, my nigga type stuff. Like, yo, can't be doing that. But yeah, Egypt is wild. Like that's a whole other. So I got kidnapped in Egypt. Shit.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
We hate to hear that one, brother.
Man, my bad. Last question. You came from Africa, because we've been talking about Pan-Africanism. Doesn't it kind of like undermine this Pan-Africanism if countries in Africa had that much economic disparity, and they also can't even travel from country to country because there's restrictions? But Pan-African, the idea is like we're just one big global African, but in Africa, they don't even practice. It sounds like they don't even practice Pan-Africanism in Africa.
Nah,
right?
They do. Like I say, they do. They have programs and organizations as well that are working on, like I say, minimizing the border things. Like then you have countries, Ethiopia, Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, Uganda. They formed this whole union thing. So now they can all kind of travel, and that's been a recent union. I can't think of the name of the union. But that happened.
ECOWAS?
Might be. It happened in the last 5 years, but so now they can travel between those countries. Those are all East African countries as well. So they're working on it. Like they're aware of their issues, you know. But you know they got some corrupt leaders. When they do get a good leader, they get assassinated. They still got the CIA out there fucking with people and putting them against each other, seeding division. You know, they're using Rwanda right now. The U.S. is using Rwanda to invade the Congo to get the cobalt. So they're arming them. And so now you got the Rwandans hating the Congolese because they're like, yo, why y'all doing this to us? But America is empowering Rwanda right now to make them feel like, you know, y'all are better, y'all are more advanced, y'all are this. We're going to give y'all all of this shit and go into these parts of the Congo that we can't get into. Y'all know it better, and get us this cobalt for basically free. That's powering all our cell phones and laptops and stuff right now. So big issue going on in the Congo is they're just raping the shit out of the Congo. And they've been doing it since Leopold with the rubber and stuff. So it's damn near ingrained out there. But it's so many resources in the Congo. Like, Congo alone could the resources there in the Congo alone can make. I mean, Africa's already the richest place, but it's not managed by Africa. But
so are they like aware of Leopold and aware of like how they're being used by the West to like invade Haiti and even Burkina Faso and the other countries that I think Nigeria and a couple other countries were threatened to invade them because they got rid of their Western puppet. So it's like a lot of puppeting going on over there. Are the people like up on that?
There, everybody got freedom fighters. Everybody got their own version of Malcolm X, Patrice Lumumba out in these places. These woke groups, organizations, they fight and trust, but like I say,
it's corruption.
Yeah, they corruption. They deal the same shit what black people deal with, which we have lack of force to really take shit like we need to, you know.
Yeah. The only thing that's I guess kind of different is just like them as a majority. It's almost like you have to kind of like look at like they're doing it to themselves, because if you're like all black and then you're allowing a person from another country to manipulate you to attack another black man, and then you're like literally 99% black people in the area, it's hard to really compare it to us as like a small 13% up against the machine, you know?
Yeah, but if you like, all right, even so with us, we got black people that, you know, reach high levels. They get high in corporate life, high in the medical field, wherever. And a lot of them will, in a sense, turn their back on black people. Our black culture are the lowest of blacks. You know, they do what they can or whatever. It's the same kind of thing over there. People that are in power over there, those are the people who was raised around white people, who was sent to London for their schooling. You know, so they have their own different conditionings and people that they put in power that make them create anti-black sentiments. The same shit that a lot of us get when we rise up. You know, we start kind of getting anti-black sentiments like, oh, they ghetto over there, or they this over there, or I'm not going that side of town, or I need to get away from these other people. Like, they do the same shit over there. Their presidents and stuff, you know, they got school in London and Australia, in Switzerland, and in European places, and then they come back with pretty much European mindsets and greed. You know, greed corrupts all, money corrupts all. Like, you got to just be a very strong person to not be corrupted by money, because that starts to make you justify a lot of shit when somebody's putting like loads of cash in you and offer protection from other places. Like, not only go give you this money, we go protect you so nobody can take it. And all you got to do is boom, boom, boom. So yeah, it's not right. You know, it's the dark side of human nature. It's just being corrupted. But people is definitely fighting. They're definitely getting new presidents in these countries with new ideas. And, you know, with the awareness of the internet now, it's not as easy to just take people out like you used to. Like, they galvanizing people, you know, so you can't continue to make martyrs out of people, because the youth is smart, the youth is aware, the youth is out here protesting. They speak English, they speak Swahili, they speak Arabic, they speak French. Like, they can communicate with everybody, so they're up on it. They on the internet seeing what we doing out here, other countries are doing. Like, oh yeah, nah, the women, they woke, they on their feminist shit out there. Like, so everybody is, it's getting there, and it's like I say, it's happening fast. Like, every time I go out there, just the advance I'm seeing, it's just like, yo, I need to get a foothold somewhere out here before they make it hard for us to. Because
but the general consensus there from the people isn't like F these corrupt politicians. It's kind of like, how can I be a part of those corrupt competitions? It's not like a critical mass of people who are against the establishment that are keeping them like screwed up. You don't really see that.
No, I should have sent some videos in if I knew we was going to talk about this, because like they all hate their governments, like damn near the same way we do. Like, they're very anti their government. They got T-shirts saying "fuck their president," like all the stuff. Like, but it's just like, all you can do is protest and yell in the street and march and stuff. Same shit that we do, and hope change comes. Or y'all can get somebody new in there. But nah, they hate their government too. They're very aware of shit being fucked up, and they do not like their leaders.
All right, fellas. So appreciate the conversation, the feedback, and the recap of kind of your time in Africa. Today is Juneteenth, so we're gonna kind of move the conversation along a little bit. I have 2 videos I want to play, and then we can kind of get into the conversation a little bit. Let me find it. All right, here we go.
The story of Juneteenth starts on June 19, 1865, 2.5 years after the Emancipation Act ended slavery in Confederate States. Major General Gordon Granger and Union soldiers delivered the news that slavery had ended to 250,000 people who were still enslaved in Texas. Black Americans celebrated. Freedom brought huge progress in the years after the war. Literacy rates jumped 70% in the subsequent 40 years, and 22 Black Americans were elected to federal government. But when Reconstruction ended in 1877, attempts to build communities were met with violent attempts to restore the power imbalance of the pre-civil rights years. Throughout the 1900s, Juneteenth celebrations continued, highlighting advancements within the family and community and honoring ancestors. In 2016, Opal Lee, an activist in Fort Worth, Texas, set out to make Juneteenth an official holiday by walking from her home in Texas to Washington, D.C. She reached Washington by walking 2.5 miles a day, representing the number of years it took for news of emancipation to reach Texas. In 2021, Lee's campaign was successful. President Biden signed legislation making Juneteenth a federal holiday. Today, Juneteenth is an opportunity to celebrate Black Americans' contribution to American culture and honor the continuing quest for freedom, justice, and equality.
Do you know?
Opposed to Juneteenth, anything else. I want a special, no, I'm opposed to Juneteenth, anything else. I want a special day called Harvest Day. Harvest means bringing forth the fruits of your labor and getting credit for it, and having some value attached to it. Ain't no damn value attached to Juneteenth. And see, I would never tell Black folk to celebrate an ass whipping. If I were whipping you right now and I whipped your butt for 10 days straight, and on the 11th day I said, okay, I'm tired of whipping your butt now. And you said, well, I'm going to celebrate this. Why would I celebrate your cease with my ass? Then I'll take 3 months to even figure out I didn't even quit whipping my ass. Anyway.
National End of the Ass Whooping Day. Okay.
Forget civil rights. Go back and correct the conditions that you impose on Black folk. You cannot deprive a group of people for 500 years of the fruits of their labor with no money, no value, no land, no history, nothing. And they say, go out and compete. Compete with what? And so I tell all my civil rights leaders, you are.
Oh, no.
All right, fellas. There's the two competing perspectives. You have Dr. Claude Anderson. Some might say FBA zone. You have just a general perspective and viewpoint on Juneteenth and what it kind of honors and speaks to. So I ask y'all, should we celebrate Juneteenth?
I think we should definitely acknowledge, the word celebrate is like, do we really celebrate anything? Maybe just be wanting to be off work for real. Like with most of these holidays, like we don't really celebrate. Christmas maybe, but everything else is like it's an off day, drink, chill, whatever. I think there should be more history involved in Juneteenth. People acknowledging, what happened, where we came from, and then we celebrate this freedom. The acknowledgement of those last people finding out that they was free, acknowledgement of our own freedom. But I don't think nobody's like celebrating slavery or getting whipped and stuff. It's like it's just something to acknowledge that Black people in this country were enslaved, and this was the official date and time that the last of the country found out they was free. And I think that is cause for celebration. Anytime Black people can celebrate being free, I think is a good thing.
Yeah, I get it. I feel like the asterisk should be in there, and the asterisk should be unless Indians were enslaving you, because they held slaves a little bit longer. But my bad. I'm gonna keep. Johnny, how do you feel?
I think
Native Americans. My bad. I say Indians. Native Americans. You said what?
We celebrate our day. There's a lot of different holidays now, and I think, like A Black was saying, I think it's something to be acknowledged. And I think there's a lesson in even how people get left behind. It's a celebration of something where Black people found out something way after it was supposed to be done. It's just a lesson of how it's just a reminder of where Black people are in the country, and how like even something like our freedom was something that had to be fought for even to the very last person of us. They weren't just going to willingly give it just because it was in legislation. It's something that was really etched into the hearts of America, was to hold us in bondage. And I think it has to be, remembered, and the commemoration of ending it is definitely something to, why not? We got all these other holidays. Another holiday that doesn't hurt, especially when it's something that I believe in and something that I relate to.
Man, I love Claude Anderson, man, and I'm so glad he's finally getting the flowers he deserves. And it's just so amazing that a lot of our parents' generation have no idea who he is, even though he was serving in Congress, advocating for Black people this whole time. But they'll tell you who Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson is and all that. So I think that's just more of a sign of this cultural awakening that we're having as FBA. So we have people like Claude Anderson who we uplift, kind of like we uplift did Malcolm X, versus our parents' generation. They were more uplifting Malcolm Martin Luther King, and they would, you know, kind of not look down on the Black Panthers, but they don't look at Huey Newton the way that we do. So like Claude Anderson is just another example of that. And I enjoyed my ghetto made up holiday according to y'all's girl Candace Owens. And I don't think it's a we're like celebrating they stopped whooping our butts. I think it's a day of remembrance, kind of like another day that was created by FBA's Memorial Day, where they were remembering the Union soldiers who died fighting for their freedom then. So, and I also saw something interesting today. They said it wasn't that the people in Texas just found out that they were free. It was that after the Civil War was over, there were still some Confederate regiments that were still, that were still fighting, had to be fought off. And the Emancipation Proclamation didn't free slaves because he didn't really have the authority. He only freed the slaves in the Confederate States, which is a small percentage of Black Americans. So, and that had to be changed by an act of Congress to put in, to change it, have a constitutional amendment before it was actually realized. So it's, I think like people minimize it when they say that they found out that they were free. It's like even if they knew that they were free, if you were still under the Confederate forces, then it didn't matter what Abraham Lincoln said. And on top of that, there were still people that were enslaved. I said again, up until like through sharecropping, where they were beaten up. If they left, they couldn't leave, and they had to work for free, which is slavery. So there's a lot of nuance to it. So it's just a day of remembrance. And one last thing, I don't know if I like that it's a federal holiday because I don't want to see it to go the way of Cinco de Mayo, where whatever it represented initially is kind of bastardized into just a day of drinking, versus when it's just kept home. And when you let other people into your culture, a lot of times they spoil it. So I just want to make sure that we like one big thing they were talking about also was they had like foreign Black people who were like you see a bunch of African drums at Juneteenth celebrations and a lot of African flags, and it's really a day about foundational Black Americans, Black American freedmen, Black, indigenous Black Americans, Native, whatever you want to call us. So I just want to make sure that we, like, Juneteenth scholarships need to go to Black Americans the same way that Caribbean scholarships go to Caribbean. So we should make sure we gatekeep it, because if you gatekeep something, you make it stronger. When you let other people into it, it loses its potency.
Quick, did you ever go to any Juneteenth festivals like back in like the 90s and stuff?
Not other than they talked about it at church, and they had like little things, like it wasn't like festival.
Okay, gotcha. What I would say is that the African drums aren't like a new thing. They've been out there the entire time.
I mean, of course, but that's still not a good thing. Like what's new is I saw they had some drag queen story times at the one in Charlotte too, which Juneteenth is not about that.
Johnny,
saw that too.
Hey Johnny, did they have the drag queen story times at the Juneteenth festival? I know you was out there.
Oh no, I ain't make it out due to for circumstances. I saw that they were going to be there, and I got called in for a shift, so I ain't make it out there. But
yeah, I saw the clip of the guy talking. I was like, what the fuck is this?
What they call it, intersectionality? I don't know.
I guess.
Gee, what you think?
Man, I don't know. It's a weird thing because like I agree with Dr. Claude Anderson in terms of there's no value in having Juneteenth be a holiday. It doesn't really help the Black community in any sort of way. And that's kind of like it's like so that's
most
like
holidays though, right?
But that's like I was gonna say. This is kind of like the thing is like, yeah, we want to be acknowledged, but like we need to be more than an acknowledged. It like the acknowledgement isn't paying back the debt. So it's like we can do Juneteenth, we could do Black History Month, but what are you doing for Black people in America as a federal government due to the circumstances that they've been put through? And these holidays, they're nice, say, tokens. But beyond it being like a nice token, I agree that it doesn't really add much value to the community, unfortunately.
So does everybody believe that Juneteenth is, in essence, just a token federal holiday?
Man, nah. I think I don't want to disagree with Claude Anderson, but I think it's important for us to have our, like Malcolm X's birthday is an example of a day that we should celebrate because we need to remember his message. And then Juneteenth, like it's almost like never forget. And to keep it as something that we remember every year, I think there is some value to that, but it is not the end all be all. It needs to lead to what G is talking about. But I don't know if it necessarily has to be like all in one.
Yeah, that's why I was saying in the beginning of my response that it should include, more history into it. Like I said, that will bring more value into it. Sitting down with your kids. One thing I notice a lot about Muslim holidays is, they really go into the knowledge of the Quran. They teach stuff, and then they celebrate and they eat and all that stuff. But the education and the knowledge and all that comes first. I would like to see more of that, and I know that does go on. I've been to some Juneteenth events and certain things, and they have a whole cultural thing. So I think that's value in remembrance, especially when we have so few time. I mean, a lot of us don't doing Kwanzaa. Kwanzaa is still kind of like, let's just post stuff for the internet. But if you
It'd be like the first 3 days.
Right, yeah, the first 3 days to forget about it. But if you did it right, you're supposed to wake up every morning with your kids, light a candle, explain the process and meaning of that day. You teaching them Umoja, you teaching them Swahili words in the same time, giving them another language outside of the European language. It should be more education involved. But yeah, I mean, like most holidays, what value do they really have other than an economic boost? Most Black people, holidays just another time to be off, or see your family, or eat good. Like we kind of do the same vibes for every holiday.
But like the thing with Juneteenth and the timing of everything, if we look at the time period, if the George Floyd thing, it doesn't happen in 2020, then we don't get this federal acknowledgement in 2021, in my opinion. Like again, it was like a strategic give on the federal government's part to pacify Black Americans, to say, hey,
passing the law.
Yeah, exactly. Because at that same time period, around that same time period, other laws were being passed to protect other communities. There was like an Asian specific bill that was passed to protect Asian, Asia, Island, Pacific community. Forgive me if I don't know the right acronym. But then when the George Floyd stuff really started hitting the fan, and this was also the first time I had ever seen corporate America start saying like pro-Black things publicly. Salesforce was posting on LinkedIn talking about Black this, Black out that. Salesforce talking about Black this, Black out that. If that's all not happening at that time, I don't even think the government is going to give us Juneteenth. Like I really think, again, it was like just a token to say, all right, let's give them something to try and quiet things down.
But I guess even if, because I agree with everything that you're saying, and them doing it as quote unquote a token, but at the same time, it was like a full push to make Juneteenth a holiday also, though.
Wait, was it by who? Like who pushed for that? My bad.
Shit, I think even inside the thing, there was a lady, but like from as early as I can remember, like I remember going to Juneteenth festivals all the time when I was younger. I remember like them always making this like a statement of like Juneteenth needs to be a national holiday because of X, Y, and Z.
I never heard that talk though growing up.
I never heard that either. I've heard of Juneteenth, but
I never went to a Juneteenth event growing up. I never heard people saying we got to make it a holiday until like recently when the whole pandemic and stuff was going on. So
really?
Yeah, my experience is different there.
Yeah.
I don't know. Hey, Black, you
so growing up in North Carolina, I never really heard of Juneteenth, but I spent summers in DC with my great aunt, and she was like woke and conscious before people was woke and conscious. So she used to talk about it and take me to like little events with other kids, and I remember them talking about it back then. Like, this should be.
Maybe it was my bubble because I feel like we grew up close enough inside it because you went to West Charlotte.
Yeah.
But I remember going to Mad
Charlotte.
You said what?
I said I didn't hear of it in Charlotte. Like growing up, my family, outside of my great aunt until I started to shoot, I became like real cognizant of what she was talking about. She was the first to start.
Maybe my people was just like mad post black.
Q.
Like
exactly.
I think it was a niche thing.
I remember going to all them shits, and I used to hate going when I was a kid because we was just longing out in the sun and shit.
It's definitely another thing that all black people knew about or acknowledged. Unless you were in Texas, for sure, they've been on it for a minute.
That's so crazy. Okay.
But real quick, I don't know if I can say like they gave us a holiday, but because we were already celebrating, I wonder if there was kind of like a. Is that me?
Somebody. I got you. I just fixed it. Go ahead.
There was a my shit is peaking. My fault. So there was I think our cultural movement that we had would have made Juneteenth, celebrating holidays like that, the same way we're digging up people like Claude Anderson and talking more about what MLK, how we wanted reparations and things like that. I think there was an organic, like us doing that with these holidays. And I think Juneteenth may be a part of that. So in order to like kind of quell that, kind of like with hip hop, when something's becoming too powerful, what you do is you recognize it and then give it like a white badge, so that way it kind of dampens. Then you have like the Walmarts with the Juneteenth ice cream, and you commercialize it, so it kind of takes away
step on it.
Yeah. They wanted to get ahead of us using that holiday, and then kind of take away a lot of its potency. Like I'm always on my tinfoil do rag, but I think that I wouldn't put that past them.
I feel it. I guess any closing remarks in this for anybody? Okay. All right. Well, I guess we'll move on, fellas.
Oh, my bad. Can
okay.
One thing? Can we get so does everyone agree, I guess, that we should be able to gatekeep this holiday? Like we like Juneteenth scholarships. We shouldn't make it about Africa. We should make it about our Black American thing. Like, you know what I mean? Like putting the RGB flag on it, things like that is that's off code.
What flag?
Juneteenth got its own flag. Did you know that?
Yeah, they got a Juneteenth flag.
What color?
Yeah. It's like red, white, and blue.
Red, white, and blue.
It's red, like green, but it has the stars and stripes like the red, white, and blue.
Nah, it's like a half red, half blue, with like a star-like thing or flower-like thing in the middle. I don't know how to explain it, but there is a Juneteenth flag. I'm seeing it everywhere.
Yeah, I guess that's what the official one. I didn't see or hear about it until this year. That specific flag.
This flag.
Yeah, but I said the one A Black explained is the one I had previously usually been seeing, but I guess it's like one star and then it's half blue, half red, and it's supposed to signify like the Black people's impact on the actual country of America, and that's why they kept it red and blue and white.
So it's on my Windows screen right now on the start menu, but I think that's a step in the right direction, because that RGB flag, like Africanizing it, that was like really pissing me off. So it's good to see that even Microsoft is not using that flag anymore. They're using an FBA or American Freedmen based flag, because if we make it about Africa instead of talking about what we have over here, then it's really I agree with Candace Owens at that point.
I do agree in the idea that it should be something that is based around the people that had the shared experience of being freed from slavery, for sure. How loosely or closely you want to relate that to some African heritage, you know what I mean? I can see where if you go OD, then it can be a little extra, in my opinion. All right, fellas, let's hop into some of the, I guess, the quote unquote topic of the day. We start speaking about slavery and its impact. So I'm gonna start us off with a video, and from there, I got a question, and we can kind of unpack from there.
Yes, that is exactly what I want Black people to do, and here's why.
And my bad, I'll read this. It says, you want Black people to take accountability when 1, we were brought into slavery, 2, dealt with Jim Crow, 3, redlining, 4, having the two-family house killed.
Yes, that is exactly what I want Black people to do, and here's why. Okay, so I'm going to give you an example to kind of prove my point. So let's say you're riding a bike out in the city, you accidentally go on the road, a car hits you, and you break your leg. So then obviously you go to the doctor, you're in the doctor's office, and then the doctor tells you, hey, you're going to have to let it sit for about 5 to 6 months so it can heal. And then after that, you're going to need another 5 to 6 months of physical therapy to get back to where you were. And then you say to the doctor, but that person broke my leg, they should fix my leg. The doctor's like, well, that person can't really fix your leg. Sure, they can give money for the doctor's appointment, but you're still going to have to wait and let your leg heal. And then you are going to have to do the physical rehab to get yourself back in shape. That person cannot move your body and control your body and do the rehab for you, no matter what they did to you. So I say that to say, no matter what white people did to us at those times, right, we need to fix our situation now. It's not up to them. Right? So we need to fix our problems. Okay, so now let's say you're starting to go to your physical therapy sessions, right? So instead of actually doing physical therapy, you're sitting there complaining about the person that did that to you each physical therapy session. Are you actually going to get your body back to where you need it to be? No, because you're not doing the necessary therapy to get there. Same thing here. Instead of us working and building on ourselves, we are too busy complaining about the past, what happened, how we were treated, and it's not really working for us. Like so many of us will put so much energy into complaining about redlining, systematic racism. We won't even talk about the fact that Blacks sold each other into slavery. We just like to pretend that didn't happen and just act as if the white people were the only people involved. Newsflash, they weren't, right? That's a whole other topic. My point is there are so many skills and so many ways to make money in America right now, and most of us have no clue about 75% of them. You can make money on YouTube in 30 different ways. You can make money on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. You can do online sales. You can do crypto. You can trade. You can invest. You can.
All right, kind of raining at that moment, but fellas, what is your reaction?
Get this guy out of here.
That's the man.
Yeah, I hate when people make like vapid comparisons, like you comparing slave trade to a leg break. You know, it's like it's not a comparable metaphor. Like I see what he's trying to do, but no, man. And it's like you're not complaining about history. You're continuing to acknowledge it, 1, so it doesn't repeat again, and 2, so you can get what you're owed from what was taken away. So it's like I don't see most black people complaining about slavery in the past. I feel like niggas should be complaining more. You know, most people are kind of in a stupor out here, and they're not thinking about the past. It's only like a few people that are are really fighting for it, and that's been the situations for every movement. The few fight for the many, and then the many kind of benefit from their sacrifices. But niggas just don't be complaining out here about stuff. Like they be out here just living life, and it's whatever. That's the past. But I don't like that whole like we should work hard. So many ways to make money. Like, but the education that's been taken from us. So a lot of us don't have the knowledge to get to these so many ways because they're uneducated, and that has been a systematic thing against black people. Like, so you can't like just dismiss stuff and be telling niggas work harder. We got so much opportunity here, and even though we're the 12% of this population and the minority in every category, some of us can make it. Like that's what I get from that. Like I made it, my parents made it. I'm sitting here, I'm talking proper to TikTok, and why can't you niggas make it? Stop complaining. It's just like a broken leg. Like, man, get out of here.
Man, my first thought is where his people from, because that hairline was way back there, and it's like always usually that, and then the zesty man too. It's like that's not our warrior class. So I expect someone like that to say that. And also, like, I think when Kanye said slavery was a choice, even when we were in bondage, there was somebody like him. We were talking about how we're going to get off the plantation. There was somebody like him talking about, nah, why don't you just, if you just work hard enough, you can save up and buy your freedom. You was good to get us all beat type of situation. It's always like somebody that just wants to, if we just assimilate hard enough, then maybe we can get acceptance. And I think some people, like, you can't convince a person that's off code not to be that way. I've kind of learned that way on this. I'm doing this show. Like, you can say whatever facts or anything like that, but at the end of the day, if they have in their mind that they can assimilate, and then that'll be their route to empowerment, then they're not gonna learn until they get that Negro wake up call, like so many of us do. Not us, but so many of them do. I can't wait for Stephen A to get his, but that's another note.
I mean, I think it's a situation where both can be true at the same time. Like, of course, like the history, like it matters, and it's an ever evolving system that's like, it hasn't gone away. It's evolved. I'm not, I acknowledge the existence. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, and of course, it's shaped, the past, where we're at now, and it's unfortunately going to continue shaping our future. But at some point, like, it is only in our hands. Just like and so yes, like it is going to take Black people coming together and us unifying and holding ourselves accountable one way or the other. Whether we if we're going to get to where we want to get to, whether we hold ourselves accountable as far as getting in unity and getting reparations, where we hold ourselves together when it comes to how we vote politically, we're the only ones that's going to save us. So that part of it is true. It is on us, and maybe it's not a simulation. Maybe it's us working harder together or working harder to unify. But that part of it is true. Now, the other part is also true about the past and the system and everything they've done in the position they put us. But they're not going to save us, and just acknowledging that's not going to save us either. We have to put a plan of action together, and I think we're doing better with that in present day. But we just have to continue moving in that direction.
So basically, saying it's not our fault, but it is up to. It's not our fault, but it is up to us to fix it.
Right. Basically, yeah. I mean, like, yeah, it ain't your fault, but the milk is spilt, and it's in your house. So you gonna clean it up or just let it go bad?
I think we can still.
That's kind of the cast example that he just gave.
But I think we can still do for self. We can still do for self, and we still want what's owed to us at the same time. So we can do better for them. Like, so I don't look at it as like no handout. Are we asking them for nothing? Like G was saying earlier, you just paying what you owe, and then we can take what we get and do for self and get this shit on our own. But you still owe us this shit either way, whether we begging, whether we taking, whether we asking, you still owe this shit, like, to us, to generations of people. And just give some contrast. So in my family, we met the actual slave, the white people who used to own us here in North Carolina. And so, like, they did this whole deep dive, and they've been having like family reunions since the 1800s, and they invited us to the first one last year. Their Black side, their Black descendants.
I
so
see what you're saying.
Wow.
And so I don't know if all y'all are Charlotte based, but it's all in the South Park area. All this land they own, that some of we used to own as well, but most of my family sold it off except for like one aunt. All of them are doctors, are lawyers, are surgeons, and all off the backs of us. So it's like when you look at that generational trajectory of like what free labor has gotten these families, like, nah, we need what we owe. Like, I don't want to hear no broken leg metaphors. Like,
Pay us what we owe, so we can start getting our generations back on track. Cause these are generational changes. Like none of this shit is going to happen overnight, but it has to start with somewhere. Like you gotta start with something. I don't want to say you gotta give us something, but you gotta repay us with what you took from us.
Mm-hmm.
And I totally agree, but like I guess this is my point. It's like we all ran into like the bully back in the day, and you get whooped, and you go and tell your mama, "Hey, such and such hit me," and what your mama tell you to do? Take your ass back there, and you got to stand up for yourself. You got to be strong. You can't be out there crying. I think that's the point where we're at as Black folks. I mean, we like getting reparations, getting them to pay us back. Isn't going to be an easy thing. It is going to be some kind of unity for us to come together and some kind of accountability amongst us to even make that goal a reality. So that's my only point. I definitely think, yeah, if it's owed, it should be paid. But sometimes somebody owe you some bread, you gotta go holler at them. And you just crying about them. Hey, you owe me this, you owe me that. Sometimes you gotta go and see about it. And
you think we crying? My bad. You said crying. You think that was kind of like you said crying about it?
Whatever it is, but you gotta go get the 20. You gotta go get it. Like I mean, like it crying. It's not crying. It's not crying, Trey. It's not crying. Like it ain't crying. I ain't trying to get hung up right there. It's not crying.
That's a crazy choice of words, bro. On Juneteenth.
I see where that was going a mile away. Yeah, but yeah.
But that was my only point. Sometimes, yeah, you gotta go and see about that money, and it take you to you gotta put your back up strong, and you gotta step forward and do it the right way. So that's just why I'm mad about it.
Gotcha, G.
I'm gonna go ahead.
No, I mean, look, the dude, like I don't like comparing slavery to breaking a leg personally. Like I do think that's not the best way to get your point across, but I am of the mindset, whether right or wrong, I've just grown up understanding that nothing was going to really be fair, and that to get things, I'm going to have to work harder than other folks. When I go to the store, I can't put my hands in my pocket. I was raised aware that I have a target on my back, if you will. And so in knowing this, I feel like you have to move accordingly, in that you've got a target on your back, that there's not a clear runway or path for success, versus when you're born a white man in America. Like if you're a white man and failing, shame on you, right? You wasted being a white man in America. But when you're a Black man in America, you already know you're playing with a different set of cards, and regardless of why you're playing with these set of cards, it's going to be up to the individual to figure out and define how they exist, in this country, and what they're going to do for their families, because the government's not, or America's not going to set you up to do that to the best of your ability. So I feel like you got to do for self. You got to make sure, like I said, you got to do for self over everything. And you can't expect to ever get a fair deal doing business with the American government. And if that's the goal, to get a fair deal, probably not going to happen. We can still fight for reparations. We can still fight for these other things, but these things shouldn't stop individuals from doing for self and building communities, in my opinion.
So, G, what do you say to, like, we've done for self so many times, but we're constantly undermining sabotage. So what does do for self look like in a situation where you're like, it's like playing a card game and your opponent is cheating, and then you're not, nobody else is playing the game any better than you. So like do for self, kind of like you could say immigrants do for self, like, but their do for self can't look the same as ours, because we'll have to do for self, then defend what we already did. Otherwise, we'll just be in the same cycle of building and having it destroyed constantly.
Yeah, I don't disagree, right? Like, I mean, even Black Wall Street in Durham is an example of affluent Black community intentionally attack Hayti community in Durham, put Durham Freeway
Wilmington, right
through it. So like,
where you at? Where you at? Give like a quick synopsis of the Black Wall Street in Durham. A lot of people hear of the Black Wall Street in Oklahoma, but me going to Central, like you see all the signs and everything that kind of speaks to it. So I give you the alley-oop.
I lead this up here in case niggas want to read it while I'm talking, but the short of it is Parrish Street in Durham, North Carolina, downtown Durham, North Carolina. There were Black entrepreneurs, and a lot of people don't know, Q, that the Duke family, who Duke University is named after, had a huge impact on why Black Wall Street exists in Durham, North Carolina, because it was one of their barbers, I believe. And then from there, that barber learned enterprise and started opening up more barbershops. And then Black Wall Street just was a place where you saw all these Black businesses, from insurance companies. In fact, the largest Black-owned insurance company in the world at one point was right in North Carolina, or in Durham, North Carolina Mutual. And so there was a time period in the early 1900s where like it was known as Black Wall Street. Mechanics and Farmers Bank. You had all types of services, stores. Like the Black institutions were somewhat thriving at that time period relative to what, the average Black experience was. So, and Durham and Tulsa aren't the only two Black Wall Streets either, to my understanding too. I think there were others, but that's a brief highlight of, the background of Black Wall Street in Durham. It was a group of entrepreneurs and they provided, all types of Black-owned services, from insurance to banking to pharmacy to barbers. Of course, niggas still got barbers. That's always going to be a staple. But Black Wall Street was a thriving thing in Durham, North Carolina.
And what was its demise? Was it just a regular race riot, or did they build a highway through it?
It was infrastructure, right? And so the Durham Freeway played a big part in why what grew to be like the Hayti Center and that Black community that was thriving over there. When they put the Durham Freeway through there, it really hurt that community. And another big piece to Durham, it's a tobacco city. You feel what I'm saying? So in the early 1900s, you had a lot of folks who could earn off of being farmers. Like Durham was a farmer's town. A lot of these neighborhoods today, Hope Valley Farms, Garrett Farms, like all these are old farmlands that have then been converted into neighborhoods recently. So Durham was a farmer's town. You could do things. And then over time, those industries essentially died. And then, when those industries die, when these Blacks who are working class Blacks now can't get working class jobs, then who's going to support those working class businesses, you know what I'm saying, or those entrepreneurs on Black Wall Street? So it was really a multifold, like, as to why it ended up crumbling, but it was not by accident that it failed.
Gotcha. All right, so fellas, I feel like this is a good time to kind of jump into the title question. I'll ask it, let it hear your response. Has slavery impact today become an excuse?
That's according to white supremacists. Yeah, it's an excuse, because it has just as much impact on Black people as the 4th of July has for white people's freedom in America, because like they can trace the dominoes to what they have to the 4th of July, but when we trace the dominoes to bondage and Jim Crow and all this economic, subjugation and violence, barbarity, like what happened to the group of people in Germany was like pales in nothing happened to them that didn't happen to us in America, worse and longer, and they still talk about how it affected them. So of course it affects us. There's no way it couldn't. Even if we get reparations, it'll still affect us, because all the time that we lost in this situation is causing the interest to go up. So definitely, if someone says that it doesn't affect us, I'll be curious as to
Gotcha. And I guess my follow up to you as saying that it has. So in what way in 2024 do you feel that it currently impacts your potential as, like whether it's FBA as an American XYZ?
There's no black city that I can go find employment. I have to go work for a white person. The black school,
You
the
said
white
blacks.
schools,
Oh,
like
okay.
all the black communities that they had that were thriving, that were the start of corporations. I don't have that. Like all the white people that can use nepotism to because the corporations, even like I saw a stat talking about like immigrants who come over here and they earn so much, they still go and work for a white-owned company. It's not like an Asian corporation. They go get work in Silicon Valley for Google and Facebook with somebody with a white person at the head. So if not for what happened to us, we would have our industries and we wouldn't be starting from the bottom. So I would have more of an inheritance because we would have had what we had passed down in our 400 years that we were here, not building wealth because we were working for free. What if we had that wealth that was generated in our pockets? So we got a hole in our pocket due to it. So,
but Dr. Claude does also talk about this. Is also highlights one of the reasons why Black Wall Street didn't thrive was because once things were no longer segregated and integrated, Black people wanted to stop spending their money at Black places and wanted to go shop at white places. And so, like, there's a large percentage of Black dollars voluntarily being moved from the Black community to assimilate in these white spaces and buy from these white folks who they don't even want us as patrons to their business. But that was like what Dr. Claude talked about, how his family owned a bus company out of Winston-Salem and had all these buses. And then all of a sudden segregation becomes no longer a thing and things get integrated. And now people don't support the bus company. They want to ride the white buses and not drive the Black buses anymore. So it's like, while what you're saying is true, there's also the other side of that us as a community didn't hold our institutions down when we had the opportunity to kind of keep those things. A lot of us thought that the grass was greener, if you will, or wanted to make sure that we were parlaying with the whites in ways that left or was to the detriment of some of our Black businesses and institutions.
Right, and that's why I rock with Claude Anderson, because I heard him say exactly what you just said, G, when he was talking about capitalism, because I was studying up on that from one of our discussions we had. But he said that there are two things: what you just described, and also like the Jim Crow, slavery, everything. Those two things working together. Because you're right, if we were able to be more disciplined with our dollar and be more disciplined with our vote, then that would help speed up our liberation. So, yeah, I credit that too.
Gotcha. So before I throw the A Black, I guess I'll re-ask the question again. I think that you explained how the past could have impacted today, and I guess what I'm saying is, so in 2024, given everything that the past has been, for the progression today and the future generations tomorrow, how is or has slavery in the history of slavery impacted you from stopping that from happening? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Have y'all heard of post-traumatic slave syndrome?
Yeah, I forget what the word is. It's something dealing with like genetics as well.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's a theory, I forget her name, but some doctor,
it's
Dr. Joy something.
Yes, epigenetics.
Right, yeah.
That's the term.
But she has a theory that speaks to similar to what post-traumatic stress disorder. Like if you go through traumatic event, it can impact you on down the road. You see it often, right, in our soldiers in the military that go to war. They then come back and have this post-traumatic stress from being at war. What this theory, post-traumatic slave syndrome, suggests is that the generational abuse of slavery, Jim Crow, etc., has a similar effect in the Black community that PTSD has when people go through other traumas. And I feel like that's very much true. I feel like a lot of our families that did come from slavery, which then were left to themselves and were lower class on the poorer side of things, didn't have the affluence in the household, didn't necessarily have educated parents in the household. Like there was no guarantee at my grandparents' age that you were going to get a high school education, for example. Like that wasn't a guarantee. And so it's really only recently where some of these standards are realities for Black people. And I feel like a lot of us culturally, when we go home, our cultures, you know, how can I say this? You can see remnants of how slavery has an impact on the household, in my opinion, in terms of how we communicate, the food we eat, how we celebrate things, the religions that we prioritize. Like a lot of this stuff was given to us during slavery, and we made it Black tradition over time. So I feel like just
I
by
guess
that it has an impact.
so by that you would say that today's family structure is pretty much is still a derivative of the slavery oppression of Black people.
Yeah, because they've always targeted Black men in this country from slavery to post-slavery to incarceration to like however you flip it and rebrand it. They've been trying to keep niggas in chains, and since Black folks have been in this country, they tried to break up Black families. That's always been a goal. They never tried to make sure we had everything we need to keep families intact. So I feel like I feel like you often see that and feel that in the Black community. You feel the result of this oppression, even though it's generationally from, you know, the past. I think you still feel it today.
Gotcha. A Black. You muted.
So I think your original question was like how it affects me personally in 2024.
Yeah, has slavery's impact today become an excuse? And then a follow up, if the answer is yes, or if your answer is no, how has it impacted you in 2024 and how you're actually operating?
Yeah, no, I don't think it's an excuse. I think Trey might have said the white supremacists or, you know, certain white people or certain whitewashed Black people, they might use it or say it. People are using it as an excuse. I mean, and then you can have instances where some people, you know, use the slavery card incorrectly or, you know, the victim card incorrectly. But that overall, we see the remnants. Like G just listed a whole lot of it. We still see the remnants of the effects of slavery to our education, to our family structure, to the way we treat our women, our dating dynamics. Like all of these things have been passed down one way or another. Like conditioning is real. Just like
So speak to the dating dynamics.
so the dating dynamics, like, you know, we had breeding farms. You know, we had bucks, what they call bucks, the biggest Black males on plantations. So, you know, they were literally forced to impregnate like women over and over again. So you have this conditioning in the men to do what? Like if that's all they know is to just impregnate the women, they're not teaching them romance or teaching them love or teaching them to be fathers. They're teaching them to be big bucks to impregnate so I can get the biggest, strongest slaves and keep it going, you know. So you got breeding farms, you have exceptions of plantations where they allow, you know, unions to thrive and whatnot. But for the most part, it was a lot of psychological warfare, breaking and taking away. Even if I do let you marry a woman, I'm going to rape her, and you're not going to be able to do nothing about it. So how you have the women feeling unprotected by the men because we can't do nothing. Really, are we going to get killed? Are we going to get hung? So all of these things, they develop over time. I think we get a small period of reprieve, maybe through like I'll say the 20s through the 60s, of kind of the black family structure, reconnecting again, and then they brought in integration, they brought in civil rights, they brought in welfare, they brought in things to separate the man and the woman again because they started to realize, oh shit, like these black families are starting to come back together. You can look at the statistics from the Reconstruction period to now, as far as what we own, as far as the education stats, as far as everything. Nothing really has progressed heavily. Like on the surface, a lot of things have progressed. Like we're not walking down the street having to put your head down, the white people, and getting hung and no. So yeah, certain things have progressed on the violent end of it because they don't really need to do that anymore. But a lot of shit is the same, and a lot of it is a trickle down effect from slavery, from the conditions of slavery, and been passed down and manifesting and still in a lot of ways today. So me personally, I don't feel as affected, but I would call myself an exceptional Negro, and I don't think everybody has, the fortune or the fortunate life path that I've had. So, but I can still go in certain communities and look around and see, like, damn, like the effects are still there. It's still heavy, like for the masses of us, the quote masses. We are exceptional black men. I think a lot of us on this panel and they come on this show, so we speak sometimes from a place of privilege. But you go in any hood in America, you see the effects. Like you see, like what lack of education is doing, what lack of financial education is doing, a lack of a spiritual grounding is doing. Like the shit is there, the shit is real.
Got it.
Can I, push back? Oh, my bad. Go ahead, John. I got a response to A Black though.
Push back a little bit. I think like one of the biggest impacts of slavery in like modern day would be our Christianity and our religion. That's something that was given to us through slavery, and it's something that's still very relevant in like our day-to-day lives, like as far as like impact. As far as like the excuse part of the question, I want to push back on it a little bit because I think like we always forget about the part after slavery, like Reconstruction, where Black people were doing very fine, and it wasn't until that part two where they kind of knocked us off, where it wasn't the slavery part that really messed us up and it has a lot of the lasting impacts. It was the Jim Crow era, the terrorism that the KKK did, a lot of the propaganda and politics to kind of split and divide our house. And I think taking it all the way back to slavery kind of misses the point of like where we really missed the ball, because right after slavery we were doing pretty okay. We weren't equal footing, but we were progressing. And once the systems kind of recalibrated their attack, we haven't adjusted very well since. And I think once we figured that piece out, we will get it. But it's not the slavery that's holding us back now. It's all that bullshit they done since then.
Well, John, you were saying after slavery, you're right. We were doing well, but that was only because the Union troops were there. And after the compromise and they pulled those Union troops out, that's when all the white supremacists were able to run roughshod and destroy all our communities.
Wall Street in the early 1900s after the troops left.
Wait, you said Black Wall Street, and when, like the 1920s, or
that was during Black Wall Street was early 1900s. Yeah.
So you're saying that we were doing well? You muted, bro.
Go ahead, Johnny.
All right, we was unmuting at the same time.
Yeah.
But that was after the Union troops had left. We were still doing okay. Yes, there was a lot of like insurrection right after they left, but we still maintained for about 40 it was a good little while where there was a lot of progress that was still made. Right, it was like the Red Summer 1919 where the tide really started changing for us, and like the Jim Crow era really came back in. But between slavery and that time right there, we weren't bad, and we can take, and that's why I say we could take cues from some of the stuff we did now from within and use it now, because we do have like time where we can go back and be like, oh, this is an example, this is a blueprint, oh, this is how they ended up working together.
Hey Johnny, Johnny, I think you got a real time question. This is, how were we progressing during Reconstruction?
Right.
Yeah, I was like, they didn't have no choice but to have those communities then. But were they like all thriving? Like,
hell no.
but like the clip said, the literacy rates, the literacy.
Somebody go ahead, finish up, G.
The clip highlighted like when you come from slavery, the fact that you can read is a progression. You see what I'm saying? Like when you go from not being able to just be educated to now the literacy rate dropped 70% during Reconstruction, that's a pretty significant progression in my opinion. So literacy improved, enterprises improved, and like I said, those are just a couple of examples, but to be fair, there was not really but one way to go. You know, it's like you're starting from ground rock bottom. You really, you know, there was hope, not to say things couldn't have got worse, but there was really only one way to go at that point because of how bad things were for blacks in the country.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know if we can describe that as doing well, because it's kind of like when someone brought up that like in the continent they were improving, or they were on the trend up. But if you're starting from where they were starting from, then any improvement is trending up. So during that time, to say we were doing well, I don't know if the KKK is marching through, they're lynching people left and right, they're taking advantage of our women, all that going on. It's hard for me to say we were doing well. And then after slavery was over, up until Reconstruction, that's when we had like our Wilmington, North Carolinas, where we were in elected positions in Congress, and they were getting legislation that was helping Black people specifically, and we haven't really had that since then. But after the Union troops left, and we were
doing well, Trey. Like you talking about, like in Wilmington, and how like that was after Reconstruction. That was in the late.
Wilmington was 1898. Wilmington, the thing that happened, the coup in Wilmington was 1898.
Yeah, that was after Reconstruction. We were still
probably. But
Reconstruction is like 1880. Maybe 70s, 80s, like
is when
it was like the 10 years after slavery.
Yeah,
20 years after Reconstruction, and we were still progressing. I mean, yes, right after slavery, yes, we had a long way to go, but like we had reached the point before the new age of Jim Crow where we had Black Wall Street, we had Durham, we had Wilmington. It was places in Myrtle Beach, in Conway, South Carolina, where there was a lot of land and Black people owned up to like 12.5 million. You can maybe fact check that, but it was a point where we owned a lot of land, and that was before the Great Migration. That was in the early 20s, where a lot of we ended up leaving that, but that wasn't because of slavery. We gave that away. That was because of Jim Crow and racism and white supremacy. But we just have to learn how to battle back. I think that's way easier to battle back against as opposed to us fighting against slavery to actually have our freedom.
Hey fellas, so I guess as we continue the conversation, I want to move it forward a little bit. Trey, I know you got some more that you wanted to get off. My bad, but so I guess I'll start by saying, given if we accept the concept of like epigenetics, post-traumatic stress disorder, XYZ, has slavery left blacks with a white superiority complex and or a black inferiority complex?
Not in America is bad. I saw this interview where they went to like Asian, like people like Asians, all people that were non-white, and the only people that said they wouldn't, if they could be any other race, what would they be? The only people that said black were the Black Americans. So I think there's a cultural pride that we have here because we see everyone copy us and everything like that. I don't think the average Black American like wants to be white. So it's hard to say that we have a white superiority complex if we don't want to be them. We just know that they're in a position of power. So it's kind of like some people just do what they have to do to play the game and get along. But I don't think they like.
I think
It's
that's more so closer to what it's talking about. It's like that the concept
like,
of black people can't do anything because white people have their foot on our necks.
I mean, that's a reality, because even we just talked about all these Black Wall Streets and all these situations that we have. They're constantly undermined. Even like last year in Colorado, there's a black man with a farm over there, and then the police, the government agencies, and all the neighbors were stalking his place, threatening and killing his wildlife. And then even like black farmers, Biden promised them to get money and then evade. Like kind of like a reparations type situation for what they had to deal with getting their land stolen. And then the farmers got together and prevented them from getting that money that they were owed.
So I guess for you would say that it's less of like a white superiority complex, but more so like a white superiority. I don't know. I guess would it be just system? Maybe that's what it is.
I think it's a recognition that we're living under a global system of white supremacy. And I think that unless you recognize that, it's going to be impossible to fight back. I'm not saying that just because you recognize that, means you just lay down and take it, but you can't just like walk around blind.
Right now, they're the people that are in power, and I guess they're the superior power structure.
I don't like the word superior, except for the fact that that's the word that they use. So
you just said supremacy. That's just like a branch off of that same word.
But I mean, it's white supremacy is a mindset. I don't think that we believe that they're supreme. I think that they made a system under their thought that they're supreme. I think it's more white domination.
Didn't you just say that they have the power and they have their foot on our necks and they're keeping us under their control due to their power?
I think there's more domination. Like, what does the word for supreme mean? Because supreme.
Okay, so white domination, is that more so what you're saying?
I mean, you said like we accept white supremacy. We believe.
Or white domination complex, I guess maybe. If you want me to use like a different word.
I don't even know a white supremacy. Do we have a white supremacy concept? I don't even know what that even means.
Complex. What
like
to an extent. Go ahead, G.
Like I feel like so I'll answer. I think there is a white superiority complex, not just necessarily due to slavery, but just due to like, how can I say, like, because I think this same complex exists where like in the Caribbean, it exists in South America. I think it exists in Mexico. I think it exists in Africa. Anywhere that was colonized, essentially. I think it exists in Southeast Asia, South Asia. There's a complex in that amongst the Black community. Like, why is lighter skin viewed different than darker skin, for example? Like,
you about to get into the Afro-pessimism. We gonna get there.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's rooted in something. Why is straight hair called good hair and nappy hair called something else, right? Like, that's rooted in something. Why is a big nose and big lips viewed a certain way and a little Michael Jackson joint and no lips viewed another way, right? Like that's rooted in something. And I think that's what we mean by like a white superiority complex. It's where these standards that derive from Western culture that don't necessarily fit, say, who you are, how you choose to show up, but yet you not only embrace these standards, but hold them above even what you deem, yourself, like what's good for yourself. Like like I said, there's a reason why people get surgeries, get nose jobs. There's a reason why Black folks do all these things to try and fit in culturally.
Who does that though? Like do you think we're lesser than them? Because I don't know any. I know skin bleaching is very prominent in the Caribbean. They even have a song called Dema Bleach. It's a reggae song that was pretty popular. Like, and they sell bleaching creams in India and Africa, but we don't really. They shamed Michael Jackson because they thought that he did that, and he said he had like vitiligo. So I think there's a cultural pride that we have, and so if you're saying white supremacy complex that we think we're lesser than them, I don't know if we think. I can't.
I didn't say lesser, but like I said, why is in our community lighter viewed different than darker? Just answer that for me.
You think we clown Drake for being light skinned. It's not like
no. I mean, look, light skinned niggas get jokes, dark skinned niggas get jokes. But when we talk about like, if we're gonna just have an objective, just like how dark skinned people are stereotypically generalized versus how light skinned people are generalized, like there is a perception. Even like there's a perception of lighter black people versus darker black people, and in part because like if you could pass as white, you would if you were a black person back in the day, right?
But present day, would you say that light skinned black people and dark skinned black people are at odds at all?
Of course, there's always. So you telling me there's no colorism in the black community? Are you saying that, Trey?
Yeah, man, I got like John, but I have light skinned friends. I have friends like John. I never really think about one's light skin, one's dark skin.
So Trey, I just want to make sure that Trey is. You're saying colorism does not exist in the black community. I just want to make sure that that's what you're saying.
For black men, no.
No, I said the black community. So you keep like.
I think with women, I think women they talk about good hair, but men are always wanting them to wear their real hair. Like we're not putting in.
Black men don't have like a fetishization of light skinned women.
Colorism,
like, don't have any yellow bone, none of that matters at all. That ain't never been a thing.
I didn't say it's never been a thing. I think it was.
No, it's not currently a thing. Like exotic. I just want an exotic John. That ain't what we talking about.
I think it used to be more of a thing.
You said it used to, but like
colorism is a thing in our community, bro. Like I don't even know how you can say this, bro. Just because you got dark skinned friends don't mean colorism don't exist.
He called out Johnny. He is one dark skinned friend.
No, but like I literally never think about that. Like I never think about a person's complexion unless I'm cracking on them, like making a joke. That's it. But I'm not gonna like prejudge them. Like if I see a light skinned person walking down the hall versus a dark skinned person walking down the hall, it's just a black person.
But that's you in the black community, though. You're saying colorism doesn't exist.
I've never heard anybody black see a light skinned person and a dark skinned person and then say anything beyond the joke. Like as far as like judging their character, I've never seen that.
Johnny, I love you to kind of hop in on this. You are the black friend. Do you believe that colorism exists in the black community? I don't know how we got here to that point, but we'll continue the conversation after this.
Well, I want to answer the first question about the white superiority complex.
Oh no, answer that answer that first question first, and then go into your diatribe.
About colorism?
Do you believe that colorism exists in the black community?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Do black men participate in colorism, in your opinion?
How?
Like Trey, it happened on both sides because like you get the light skin jokes, but I get a whole bunch of dark
no beyond jokes. Beyond jokes. I'm talking about as far as you treat a person and judge their character. Do you have prejudices?
I gotta argue like people like I don't know whether we do it or we actively engage in it. But I know light-skinned people that really feel like they get treated like they soft just because they light-skinned. I just had a conversation with a dude. And I was like, bro, I don't think you soft, but he always like come and that like because that's a real experience for him. Like I don't know where he got it from, but it gotta be from some of us.
Bro, they have whole caste systems. They have whole caste systems in the Caribbean. In South Africa, they don't even call themselves black. They call themselves colored if they're light skinned. They have a whole different position in society. That's colorism. Making jokes about a person being soft, like talking about Drake acting light skinned and Kendrick, like that's not. It's inconsequential. Versus like in South Africa, where there's a caste system.
It's not on the same scale as like.
You said it's not on the same scale,
system, but I think there's still a a divide that if we not careful, because it be real. Like I think there is a divide there, though, definitely between like, because you hear some people saying they want to have light skinned kids and stuff like that. Stuff like that. That's
who says that?
It exists, bro. It
Oh
exists.
no, that exists way more than not, to be honest. But
let me answer the
really,
second.
really quick. No, I'm
Y'all be around
about to go
y'all
right
be
back to
around
you.
some coons.
But really quickly, let's let me mute Johnny before. All right, really quickly. Let me quick housekeeping. In about 10 minutes ish, we're going to open up the call in lines. We're going to start dropping in the links. And
Hit
if
that
you
super
know,
chat.
and yes, bing, bing, ding, ding. Hit the super chats. If super chat's not working for any reason, check the what is that called? The
Description.
the description. There we go. I'm my bad. I'm having a slight of thought, but check the description. Cash apps are inside the description as well. But again, call ins in about 10 minutes. Johnny, it's on you.
All right, so like on the first thing about white, you said, does a white superiority complex exist?
I'll reread it to you. It says, has slavery left black and has it left blacks with a white superiority complex and or a black I'm saying this horribly. Has slavery left blacks with a white superiority complex and or a black inferiority complex?
Well, I think it's not just slavery, but I definitely do think that exists and has existed for a while. I want to go back to one of the examples G was talking about the Black Wall Street in Durham. And like part of the reason it didn't exist was there was a preference for a lot of people, a lot of us, to patronize other businesses. And I think that speaks directly to, that white superiority complex. I think there's a lot of times where like the black institutions are deprioritized when it comes to these white institutions, the HBCUs versus PWIs, the leaving the hood and moving to the white community. There's a lot of things where us leaving our community to go and be assimilate, like Trey was saying, into the white community is seen as preferential. It's seen as like the goal, the Black American dream a lot of times. So I think that definitely speaks to there has to be some form of it rooted within a lot in our cultures. Now I don't think we all subscribe to it. I think a lot of us try to fight it and know what's going on with that and actively and intentionally fight against it. But to act like it's not a thing, I think would be naive.
And they tied to white Jesus.
You said what?
They pay their tithes to white Jesus.
Oh, absolutely. Blonde hair, blue eyes up on that cross.
Put white Jesus all on the stained glass windows. That's not white superiority, an example?
Absolutely. I'm with you.
And then you talk like it is like you see it in all cultures too, bro. It's like in India, there's colorism if you're darker than if you're lighter. In China, if you're darker than if you're lighter. In Southeast Asia, if you go to the Philippines, the darker ones versus the lighter ones, it's a system there. So it's like, why do these things exist? Not just in, say, these pockets, but also here. It's like it all boils down to this white supremacy, this complex of lighter is better, white is right, in my opinion.
So G, people, there have been black men who have treated you differently based on the shade of your skin.
I'm not a dark-skinned dude, so it's like, to me, colorism is more about how dark-skinned people are treated versus light-skinned people, because technically, I'm more on the privileged side of the colorism spectrum. Like, so, I think colorism more so speaks to discrimination against darker tones. If I'm thinking about this correct, it's not like when we talk about racism, it's not like black people being racist to white, for example. It's about how white people are racist to us. So I think when we talk about colorism, I don't think it's the way that you're framing it where I'm the one impacted. It's Johnny's opinion who said like it's definitely a thing. Like he would be one to speak more about how colorism had an impact than me, because that to me is what colorism is based off of, being darker versus lighter, from my understanding.
So before we get to John, have you treated anyone differently because of based on their shade? Another black man, have you like given a light skinned man preferential treatment because he's lighter skinned than the black person? I'm trying to, because that would be in the colorist society, that happens all the time. So have you done that, practice colorism against a black man, a darker black man?
G, I think he's talking to you.
You talking to me?
Oh yeah. Have you practiced colorism against a dark skinned black man? Have you treated them differently because they're dark skinned?
Not just because they're dark skinned, nah.
Could you elaborate?
No, I mean, like, I treat niggas different all the time. Like, I mean, it's like if a nigga's dark skinned, then and he's dirty, like, I throw that into the joke. Like, you a dark, dirty nigga. You see what I'm saying? Like, but
beyond jokes though, beyond jokes, if you were a person was walking in the door and you had a business and one was light skinned and one was dark skinned, would you like, because that's colorism.
Yeah, me personally, I wouldn't. But that doesn't mean that if me and Johnny walk into the store, that they might look at him different than they look at me. You see what I'm saying?
Another black American would treat you better than they treat John because John's darker skin.
Absolutely.
But you see it and hear it all the time. I guess so. For me, there's like multiple. Like I guess one for me specifically, I'm brown skinned, so I don't really get it. But I have like cousins and my girl is dark skinned. And even if I just go with like us having a kid, and when you will hear like one, she get my daughter, she's browner skin. Like she came out fairly light, but like she's brown skin. She's close to my complexion. But my girl is dark skin. And like she will get comments all the time. Is that your kid? Is that your baby? But even past that, like you will start hearing some of those quick sly remarks of like, oh dang, I'm glad she came out as like your skin complexion. Like I've heard things like that. It's not like I didn't, and I'm like I'm making it up. Like I've seen, not even seen. I've experienced those explicit things.
I get the disconnect because you're basically saying mentioning of complexion at all is colorism. Because I'm talking about
if you're denoting that as a good or bad, that means that there is a subconscious reason why you're saying that.
So you think it's fair to lump us into places that your destiny is dictated by your complexion, like explicitly, like and say that?
Well, I think that you're going like to a further extreme of the thing. Like there's things that exist on spectrums. Because of we're not exercising it at the worst end of the spectrum, doesn't mean that it doesn't exist at all.
Yeah, it's like
I get it.
It exists. Like even Trey, when we were talking about HBCUs, why did you say HBCUs was started for who?
The mulatto offspring of the slave master.
Colorism is definitely a real thing in the U.S. It might be different than in India or the Caribbean or certain parts of Africa. We all have different iterations of how we use it, but it's definitely a big thing in our community. It is heavily, jokes now, but it's definitely a lot of truth in jokes or things that were derived from truth that now we kind of, we make light of. Like I have 5 brothers, 2 of them light skinned. We make jokes about them being soft or being overly sensitive and stuff like that.
I got you. I think I'm more of an optimist, glass half full person because I'm looking at where you came from when we said HBCUs started based on, the light skinned people and they used to do the paper bag test. In our grandparents' era, it was way more consequential versus now. It's like, I mean, we've come. Can we at least acknowledge that we've come a very long way with black? Except like we want natural. We're pushing natural hair. We're not frying wigs no more. Like all that
expression in us loving ourselves. So it's not as prevalent as far as something that's holding us back. but it's still there enough that when it's tapped on, you see that, like, even with the whole Drake and Kendrick thing, that went into light skin, dark skin, mixed versus full black, Canada versus all these different divisions that I didn't even know was like a real thing for real. When things are kind of tapped into, you're like, oh shit, this is still really a thing. Like, oh, these light skinned people really feel a way about this. Oh, these dark, like, so we see it hasn't really grown away from the community, but it's not really holding us back.
Exactly. It's not. It's like the least of our concerns at this point.
Yeah, we have other concerns, but like Andre 3000, when he did that Outkast at that tour, he wore the sweatsuit, said across the world, why do darker people suffer more? So we know that it's something about having darker skin that makes people feel away. And it doesn't matter where you at on this planet. Like, it's just something about having darker skin, people are either fascinated or they fear it or something, but it's just a thing, and in our own community back in America, we got the thing.
Right. But not like Kalani on Breakfast Club. Like, you met her Kalani on Breakfast Club when she wouldn't even acknowledge that she was black because she's colored in South Africa.
I ain't gonna lie, it's been a while since I watched the Breakfast Club interview.
Oh no, not Kalani. You talking about
Tyler?
Tyler.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, well yeah, I seen the clips of that. But where A Black was just at lends to like the perfect segue to the Afro-pessimism conversation. We can kind of get into that as we start bringing up call-ins, outputs play. And
so I've seen a lot of discourse about Afro-pessimism, and a lot of you all have asked me, like, just what is it? So I'm going to give my interpretation of it. Afro-pessimism not only highlights the lasting effects of slavery, colonialism, and all the other oldest axes of oppression that Black people face, but it takes it a step further, saying Blackness itself is integral to every single part of human life, yet simultaneously excluded from it. That might be hard to wrap your head around, so let me rephrase it. The exclusion of Blackness is included in every aspect of life. This would shape the claim that Blackness is essentially a state of perpetual enslavement. Enslaved in this philosophy doesn't mean just an exploited person, but it means anyone who's stripped of their personhood and humanity. The framework borrows from the idea of a social death, saying that Black people themselves are essentially walking corpses, living in a constant state of death. It rejects the narrative of a slave who happens to be Black, right? Blackness and slaveness become codependent as oppressive forces, right? Coterminous. Black and slave mean the same thing. This means there doesn't exist a sphere, presently and in the future, where Black people can experience the fullest and truest form of freedom. Many people critique that it's defeatist and anti-progress, which is valid. I'll give my take on it in another video if y'all want. I will say, though, that it's a critical framework and not an ideology, so you shouldn't alter your actions to conform to it, but rather use it as a lens to view the world.
The victim mentality literally does not exist. Okay? It was created to gaslight Black people and tell us that our experience is not valid. So number one, just throw that out.
Okay, to be accurate, victim mentality does not exist, but the people that think like that look through a lens of race consciousness. Well, what do you mean by that? This is when some Black people use race as a defining factor in evaluating their beliefs, ideas, and actions. When people are race conscious, they won't be concerned with individual beliefs or actions. They will look through everything with the lens of race. Any slight towards them is not because they're a bad person. It's because you're a racist. There is no self-reflection. Whatever race you belong to is the determining factor of your beliefs and actions. And this person must constantly be aware of their race so that they can be sensitized towards everything around them. And those who adopt a belief of race consciousness believe that Black people have to think a certain way. And those Black people that don't think this certain way are coons, Uncle Toms, or whatever racial slur that they can come up with. But when one isn't confident in their individuality, they start to define themselves by the group. And what better way to define yourself than the category that you've been told you belong to your entire life? You see, you've been fed the idea that race is always important. So of course you get offended when Black people don't think the way that Black people are supposed to think. So when you see everything through the lens of race consciousness, it obscures reality. You can't think straight. And anything that doesn't specifically benefit every single Black people is considered anti-Black and racist. And as such, you have that perpetual victim mentality. So thank you very much. That is all. And if you like this, consider giving me a follow.
I'm off to God the Queen. That's my joke.
My bad, fellas. All right. So again, two perspectives that kind of speak to the exact same lens, where A Black was within the idea of Black everywhere gets treated badly. The Andre 3000 shirt. But then you have, the other perspective of the brother that went last, where it ends up being a lens that dilutes your vision. What do y'all think? I'm gonna bring up our first guest to the stage. But yeah, I love to get y'all to react.
I think it's wild. Like none of these clips are like regular people. You got somebody that's zesty. People they got like 4 lines to the back of the wall, and they're talking crazy as hell. Bro.
I was about to say these are some weirdos. Trying to all these little TikTok people always throw me off. I think two things can be true. It's like we can't dismiss race when we're still so separated by it. So I don't think your lens is clouded completely. And you can still have your individuality and your creativity, but we still black until like some utopia world where race don't matter. Then oh shoot, what happened? Oh,
yeah, that was me. My bad, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it's like it's some truth to what they're both saying, but I don't believe that with the last guy that it can cloud you if you look at everything through race, because America, we're in America, so we got to speak on America. They do everything race based, so it's like if you don't, you're gonna get lost in the mix, and then you'll be somewhere thinking like, oh, I don't see color until somebody reminds you of your color. And it always is a reminder of waiting around the corner.
Gotcha.
Nah, I agree with the first guy. I mean, I think everything is like you just got to be like clear in this country, like in this world. The more melanin, it's the blacker you are, it's the worse state, and it's like consistent through not only our culture and our country, our continent, it's all the continents. And so I don't know if I'd go as extreme because I'm not like I'm naturally not a pessimist. So like the Afro-pessimistic thing, like I think that's its own little rabbit hole where it can send you down like a wrong mindset. But the cloud in your vision, I kind of disagree. I think it's the exact opposite. I think knowing like where you stand and how other people sees you, it makes your vision clearer. It makes you understand what you have to do. It makes you understand that you have to put in more of that work in order to do it. And if you're not aware of that, if you don't know that these people are gonna treat you unfairly and you think it's gonna be a fair fight, you're gonna always be mad. But if you go into the fight knowing it's not gonna be fair, when they start doing that unfair shit, you're gonna be ready for it. And I think knowing that gives you a clearer vision.
Gotcha. So we're gonna go to Trey. We're gonna go to Trey, and then we'll go to Vo, and we'll have a little conversation. We got a couple inside the back end, so we'll try and as we get to that point, I'll kind of outline some rules. And Trey, go ahead.
Man, I'm gonna be real quick, man. I think we should get everyone like this. That's like I'm not black. I'm rainbow. I'm not black. I'm Jamaican. I'm not black. You know what I mean? I'm Dominican, like they used to say. All these people that want to, all these folks that want to be like say we talk about blackness too much. I wish we could do like a dating show where we can tell them that it's an interracial dating show. We can round them up and then drop them off in like a sundown town and then let them get their wake up call. We can film it or something like that. Because everyone that has that mentality, when they get that wake up call, like Candace Owens, like she's racially homeless now. Like it was cool to talk about Juneteenth as a useless holiday, but when she went against them folks thinking that she's Miss Cartwright, look how that played out for her. So, you always going to have that. And I think that they are serving their purpose, because if it were just the grassroots black folks and not people that harbor these mentalities and things, we just talk about race too much, like those people are holding us back. So I think it's best that we separate, because you really can't build with anybody like that. So the only thing we can do is just sever ties, excommunicate, and cut them off. And I would encourage everybody to do that as much as possible. Like quit what they call it, entertaining coonery as much as we can.
Gotcha. All right, so we have a previous guest to the To Be Fair show. We have a previous panelist on Unpacked. We got Vo. Vo is in the building. So what we're going to do right now, as we have a couple people. So Vo, I'm gonna give you pretty much like a good 2 to 3 minute like spill. You can comment on if you want to go to the topic or what you felt off of anything that we've said, and I'll leave you up for a little bit longer after that to kind of ping pong conversation with us. After that, I'll take you just to the backstage, and as the conversation progresses and we get into more of an open dialogue, I'll bring you back up. Vote, talk to us.
What? Sorry, what's going on, man? Salute to everybody. Thank you all for having me up.
Yeah.
And you got celebrities up here. You got A Black up on what the hell? You know what I'm saying? I know it's been a minute since we've seen each other, but you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying.
What's up?
What's going on, man? Salute Newton, everybody. But yeah, just to kind of piggyback on what was just said about me personally, I do not have, I do not hold the same thought as I wouldn't say thought, but just saying that I do not hold the same mentality of what some may have, especially being a darker individual. I really go solely based off of people's character. Yes, race does play a role in some aspect, in some form of socializing. When you do see certain interactions with certain people, I mean, you have to understand like there's good and bad apples within every group. I think the thing is when expanding your social circles, or going to new ventures, what have you, meet new people or what have you, that it kind of opens up your mind to that even more. Like there's a lot of times where I didn't really feel a certain with me being like the only black person in a certain situation. I wasn't treated any different from that from the fact that I was a dark skinned or black person. It was just based off the conversation or the context of the conversation, how my appearances and things of that nature, and even just my mindset. And I
Hey,
think in a
Vo,
lot of people. Oh, go ahead.
let me prompt you real quick, and I'd love to get your opinion on it. Has slavery left blacks with a white superiority complex and or a black inferiority complex?
Yes, it has for a lot of people that seem to always be gun ho to, um, I call it like this liberal mindset, right? It's a liberal mindset of the whole the whole critical race theory and things of that nature. Always feeling like there's some kind of person above you, what have you. Like me personally, I don't feel like no man is above me. Man, woman, whatever the race is. Are you better at what it is that you do than I can do? Probably so. Um, we're just at a different time now. We're at a different time of access to information, accessibility to different the resources, travel, things that we didn't have, let's say 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago, and then some. So still
About
holding
45
on.
seconds.
Oh, still holding on to this past mentality. It seems like it's crippling a lot of black people or people of color to this day. When honestly is really it goes back to your character and how you approach certain situations. But I don't feel like there's any person above me, like even your status. You know what I mean? Nothing to me. I mean, you put your clothes on the same way that I do. I mean, you just might have more money or uh, whatever it is, but at the end of the day, you still take a shit like I do. You still fart like I do, bro. Like, stop the cap. So,
Gotcha. Panelists, any feedback to what Vo said?
I mean, Vo, you would at least acknowledge that a lot of the people that are behind the levers of power don't look like any of us.
yes.
Like,
okay.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, because it goes back to what I was saying about you have some people who are good at what it is that they want to do. Um, it was whatever that you want to pursue, go for it. I mean, hell, I mean, even for myself, I went to Colorado to be a national park ranger. You know how many black people was there? Me. So, did I feel like there was any barrier there? No, they treated me like any other person that was there because I qualified for that position. They went through my background with a fine tooth comb, and everything. So the thing is, it goes back to decisions and how it is that you approach certain situations. I even back when I worked at Duke, you know, the higher up you go, the less of us that you see, because a lot of the people that worked where I started at, they had this mentality of, oh well, at least I'm at Duke, I made it, and I'm gonna settle. You have a lot of people that just want to settle. You have some people that just want to achieve greatness. And even to them, that might be their greatness. Cool, they at least got in there. The kids can be paid for as far as education. If they want that, they can get the education paid for, things of that nature. But when you have some people that really want to overcome certain things, like, yeah, I mean, work for it. I mean, the same way that the Asian kid gonna have to work hard. It's gonna be the same way that the Indian person has to work on the same way that you have to. Like
So,
we're no different. I mean, I just
so
really wish that
Hey
people get
Trey,
out that
Trey.
mentality.
Before we gonna bring Vo back up, but we got look like we got about 3 inside the back end right now. So with that said, Vo, I'm gonna take you backstage, but stick around. Obviously, we're gonna bring
Oh
you
yeah,
back up, my brother.
I'll be here. I'll be here.
All right,
I'm a chat warrior. 10-4.
all right. So next, bringing up, we have TBI. TBI. I'm gonna put 2.5 minutes on the clock. Talk to us. Let us know what you agree with, disagree with. Yeah.
Yeah, can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir. Peace,
yes,
brother.
sir.
Hey, no, that's a good show, man. Definitely appreciate y'all brothers putting this platform together. But I think it was some good topics touched on. I think I would start with like the colorism issue. There really isn't no like colorism in foundational Black American or Black American society. It's like really like jokes. You light skin and you dark skin, we might joke, and that's just in the culture. FBA just joking, but like real colorism is like in the Caribbean and certain African countries where they can't access certain opportunities. We don't deny people because they light skin or they dark skin. So I would say that. And then around the issue of does slavery give us an inferiority complex? I feel like it has, but it's because it's a system that's set up to make us feel inferior, from the media to some certain statistics that they uh, tailor and make it look like we're worse than we are. So I think the system is embedded to show that or make us feel inferior. So, and I think there's only certain people that really don't understand what's going on and see the system of white supremacy. And I think the other side is when we say white supremacy, we don't mean that they're better than us. It's just they set up a system that puts them above the rest of the people, including Black people. So that's what we mean. It's not that they're actually better. It's just they set up a system that elevates them from jobs to opportunities to housing. We hear about redlining, all these different things. They built a system to put themselves in a supreme position. Not that if we were all on the even playing field, we would compete just like anybody else. But we're the only community that has things that has been put on our way to deter and detract and undermine us. The only community in America that has had that. Yeah. So that's what I would say.
What would you say Black people can do to, I guess, overthrow or change places or defeat that system that you're talking about?
I think we got to get on code and unify, like really unify, because I think a lot of people say, like, even with the FBA movement, it says divisive, but I think that you're seeing with that movement is a reaction to us trying to work with everybody and get on code, because we've been trying to work with everybody, reaching out. It's just when people get over here or in other countries, they look at us as foreigners or a different tribe. So I think that's the key to beating whites, really getting on code, not just going listen to the same music, but like, hey, let's build. If you're in Africa, hey, let's work together, let's network and really set some things up for real. That's how you're gonna really defeat it, through real unity, not fake unity, some real like on code. We're working all together on one force, but that hasn't happened. So that's why you're seeing people delineating like, hey, we're just gonna focus on us and get our thing together.
Gotcha. Right. TBI, I'm gonna put like another 2 minutes panel. Do you have any reactions to his commentary conversation?
I'd say TBI said a word like that. Like, what do y'all have to say? I mean, I agree wholeheartedly with what he said about colorism. We joke and crack all day, like with the light skin tendencies, dark. I make plenty of jokes about it. But man, if I meet a homie and you tell me he's light skinned, you telling me he's dark skinned, I don't care about any of that. That makes no difference at all. Versus other societies, that makes all the difference in the world. Versus Black Americans 50 years ago, that would make a lot of difference. But compared to that, I don't think it's we're giving us ourselves enough credit by saying that we have colorism. That sounds like kind of what TBI said in a more succinct, direct way.
Gotcha. Anybody else? All right, cool. Hey, TBI. I'm gonna just take you backstage. Stick around. Again, we got two more that we got to get to, and just kind of depending on how the show goes, we'd love to bring everybody up just to finish off the conversation with the panel.
Hey, yo, real quick, TBI, I see you in the chat, bro. I appreciate you.
Yeah, salute, FBA,
yes,
salute, man. Yeah, I appreciate what you're doing, Trey. Yep.
Right back at you.
All right. Okay. All right. So we'll be bringing up. We got another one. Shout out to Sabora, aka Heart Desire Gifts King Mountain NC inside the chat.
Now we got a woman.
Yes. Talk to us, Auntie.
What's up, everybody?
Again, let me reset the set the chat. I'm sure you've kind of heard what I told them, but in essence, I'm gonna give you like a clear 2.5 minutes to let us know we got right, wrong, or any of these topics that you want to get into, and then probably like another 2 minutes where we'll dialogue with you, and then after that, take you back into the backstage, and we'll let it bring you back up for like a full group discussion after we get through the rest of the live call-ins. So, with that said, what is your thoughts?
Okay. Well, I love all of you. So no personal problems, but of course there's some things to address. So Trey, you already know. I'm glad that you don't experience what you think is colorism, but it does exist. I've seen it, and I've just even recently heard someone talk about it just this week. And it was more or less on a little girl, or I don't know if it's a girl or a boy thing, but they're lighter skinned. So everybody say, oh, or on Facebook, you liking the post, but then their darker skinned child doesn't get that same kind of response. So I don't know if it's boy, girl, because of the age difference. That could be it somewhat. But with colorism, just so we're clear, that's just being prejudiced or discriminating, right? Against somebody based off their racial and your racial ethnic group, favoring the lighter over the darker. I don't, like I said again, if you don't have that, you don't see that, I understand, but it does exist. Maybe you all have gotten better because you are coming from a different generation, but I don't know if you saw it in the comments, but even off of the hair, because I had the long curly hair, I got picked on like that's my fault. So people do that. Or hearing one of my friends or somebody saying, "Oh, the guy said, yo, you cute for a dark skin." What the heck is that? So it do still exist. Or women that might not pick a dark skin dude. I mean, I'm guilty. I went through that phase, until you get wiser, more mature.
Yeah, like we don't have colorism policies or laws that are real distinct, but
Right.
it's definitely there. Like I've been at jobs and I've seen people be hired because they're more attractive, because they're pretty or light skinned. I've seen the pretty light skinned girl, get roles and positions. I've seen the light skinned guy get positions because he seems safer, or he doesn't scare management and certain things like that. So we are not fully out here denying opportunities because of skin color in our community, but we still do behind closed doors. Like people definitely choose people, based on how they look, areas. Like, I don't know if any of y'all ever been in hiring situations, and I've been
Mm.
in those rooms, and once people all interview everybody, they're like, "Yeah, you see what his hair was like, you see what those shoes was like, you see, man, she was kind
True.
of black." Like, people say crazy things. So I
Damn.
what Trey and other I guess T-Bow was saying, it's like, yeah, we don't have like succinct laws, or we do have terms. We got red bone. We don't got like the caste system, but we have terms for dark
Mm.
and light, things that have been passed down, and people do choose certain things, people based on skin color. Not everybody,
Yeah,
like
not, and that's, I agree. Not
that.
every, all of us, but it exists.
You had your phase with the men. I had my phase with like only liking light girls with pretty hair. But
Mhm.
I was still a virgin then when I had this phase, and that was what was being propagated, promoted in
Mhm.
the media and stuff
Mhm.
in the early '90s. It's like light skinned girls. It was Lisa Bonet. It was Jasmine Guy. It was
True.
I need a light skin, thick, red bone.
Rob Gibbs, it was all
Right.
skinned women. So
Mhm.
that was
Mhm.
the ideal. And then, you start meeting and seeing everybody's the same. And now I don't really care about that. I mean, I actually probably prefer dark skin, but the light skinned girls want to
Yeah,
be.
we evolve.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah. I really,
Can I add something? I was gonna say I got like dark skinned women in my family, and I've seen like,
Mm.
and I got my family, they own beauty, my aunt owns beauty salon, and like I've seen like the repercussions of like when we talk about like that white
Mhm.
beauty standard. I've seen like the dark skinned women come in and burn their scalp and do all of this stuff to like try to
Mhm.
fix the hair to look more light skinned, and it was like a confidence thing for a lot of like dark skinned women. That now,
Right.
we'll say this about our generation: we're working against it. You see, like the locks and the natural hair and the embracing of that. We're working against it, and we're working to solve the problems that existed, even though they weren't like other places. But there have definitely been impacts of our colorism in our community, and you definitely see it
Right.
prominently amongst our dark skinned women. A lot of the confidence that
Right. But and I respect that. But see, that's what I'm saying. I see it a lot on Facebook, as well as just other platforms. A lot of times you all say it's okay to be natural, but those women aren't the ones getting the attention. That's not who y'all looking at. I don't know who all, exactly have, women or married or whatever. But is that the choice of the women that you have?
You
Yeah.
you you're breaking up at the moment, but
Can I can I clarify
yeah.
one thing real quick? Like, because
but
like this thing saying like colorism exists, but just like I'm not saying that I was bringing it up not to say that this is a quote unquote issue, but it's an example of the white superiority complex. Like it's an example of how it shows up. So is it quote unquote an issue in the black community? I would agree. This colorism isn't the thing holding black people back per se, but it does exist, and I think that is an example of how you can see white superiority being in the mind frame because of how colorism exists. That's more so what I'm saying. I'm not trying to suggest that colorism is like such a hot topic issue. I just think it's an example of what the original question was.
good job. Way to kind of like bring it full circle.
So,
Sabora,
I
we're
got
gonna take you to the back for a quick second. Again,
you.
stick around. Love to bring you back for more of a panel conversation. We got one of our regulars, one of our favorites. Shout out South Africa. Camus, talk to us. We've hit on a bunch of different topics. Love to hear your perspective. What's your thoughts? You got two
Yeah,
and a
I'll
half
take.
minutes on the clock.
Yeah, man. I really like to talk about Juneteenth.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a necessary. It's it's one of those like how it happened. It's it was a strategic move from white supremacy, the same way that the presidency of Barack Obama was a strategic move from white supremacy, the same way that the political what astuteness of Jesse Jackson and all of those symbols, they're a distraction to real progress. But gentlemen, what I want to talk about really is how we make light of how powerful white supremacy is. So
Okay.
the Juneteenth thing should be used as a template of what's going to happen to America with regards to the reparations. How it played out is exactly how the reparations final stage gonna play out. You might get some money, but it won't be the money that you deserve. And the timing also, it's gonna be a very strategic timing from white supremacy's point of view. So again, G made a point that you know reparations shouldn't be the thing. It should be something that you focus on, but it shouldn't be the thing. While focusing on reparations, you should be building and stuff like that. But the question comes again: you build, they're gonna destroy. And then the question that I want to pose to G maybe is, why do you think that it is that when black people do shit for themselves, white supremacy comes and destroys everything else? But when Chinese built Chinatown, when the Arabs built communities in America, when the Indians build communities, nothing happens to them. Why do you think specifically it happens to black people that when they build shit, white supremacy, is quick to destroy?
I love that
Anyone
question.
can answer.
I love that question.
Anyone?
I would answer with the following. I would say that unlike Chinese, Arab, Indian, yeah, there was a little bit of concentration camp stuff on the West Coast, right? But there was they weren't enslaved in America, right? So this is a land of opportunity for everybody but the enslaved, right? It's like this was open space for any and everybody. Even when you look at old census data, the Chinese were recognized, Indian people were recognized on the census very, very early in American history. So when you look at who America fears, it's not the Chinese person, because ultimately a lot of those folks will come over here and they're taking that money and sending it where? Back home. They're doing things, sending it back home. Whereas black folks, we're not sending this shit nowhere else. Like, it's all going to us. And if we get too big, we remember what was done to us. And this is why, in my opinion, when we build something of value, it's often destroyed, or compromised, because we are the people that the country fear the most, because they know what they did. Not to say they haven't done things to other folks. America has done its damage, across the globe. But when you look at domestically speaking, there is no other comparison to the enslaved, and that's why they tear our stuff down more than anybody else.
I want to throw to A Black.
I just wanted to add to that answer. What those other groups have is a nation behind them, protecting them and backing them. So there's only so much they're going to do to the Chinese, to the Indians, to the Japanese, because they have to deal with Japan and Pearl Harbor. They have to deal with China and their trade. They have to deal with those countries. Like, they effectively cut us off so well from Africa that nobody's going to protect us. South Africa is not sending their army here. to help us, or Nigeria's not sending their army here to help us. And that was strategic. So they have nothing to fear from the world or from anybody. From let's just burn down Black Wall Street. Oh, let's burn down Rosewood. You know, who's gonna stand up for us? Like, you only so long, and Chinese were slaves here for a bit too, but China wasn't having that. You know, so you have a mainland behind you. You know, you can't really oppress people, but so much. So they're going to allow them more opportunity, because we also want to have foreign relations and foreign trade with your country. So let's show that we have good relations with your people, that we are trying to actually make them U.S. citizens, and we're going to have good relations with you too. But Black people here, since this is partly our country too, for building it, you know, they can kind of treat us any kind of way, because what are we going to do about it? And who's going to come and help us?
Man, it sounds like you're saying we need Africa to defend us in order to, like, that's why we're victimized.
Well,
we need defense.
It was an appeal for Pan African, and Camus,
Like,
I understood the alley oop that you was throwing. That was the alley oop. I seen it. But I'll say, Camus, you already know. Stick around. We got two more in the back that we got to get to, and then we'll kind of be able to kind of segue into more of a group conversation discussion. But yeah, so I'm gonna take you to the back real quick, and again, stick around. Shout out to South Africa. Camus, almost consistent as every time we have it. Great conversation, great questions. So I'm bringing to the stage Don P914. So I'm gonna give you 2.5 minutes. Whether you want to comment on something that we've said, go to one of our prompted commentary topics, or just let us know where you disagree at. Floor is yours.
Yeah. Can you hear
And
me?
let us know
loud and
where you're
clear?
from also. My bad, brother.
All right. So I'm calling. Well, I'm calling out of Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Okay.
I'm originally from New York, born and raised. Y'all hear me loud and clear?
Yep.
Hello?
Yeah, we hear you. You good?
I just wanted to make sure before I go on my little tangent. All right. So what the last caller said about us not particularly just primarily focused on reparations, I disagree on that. For the first time ever, there's been an aggressive push for reparations through all fronts, and it's getting to the point to where it's being recognized on a
I
national
think that you.
platform, right?
Okay, there we go.
And I feel like it wouldn't happen if the grassroots wouldn't be aggressively pushing it.
Yeah, you breaking up a little bit though.
I see.
Yeah, you was breaking up a little bit, but we can hear you now.
Yeah, I'm. You know what? You could get the next person. I'm gonna come back in because I see there's a delay reaction from you guys.
Okay. We had Unc up there for a quick second, but Unc, where you went to? But until until then, yeah, fellas, I give y'all like a quick 2 to 3 minutes. Kind of.
I want to ask Trey a random question because I never really thought about it until just now when I was like, wait, there were some Asian slaves out west. Do they get reparations in the FBA thing, since like there were some enslaved Chinese folk in California in the early parts?
You mean the ones that came here like on their own?
No, involuntary slaves. They came under as like prostitutes, workers.
Who brought them here?
Folks.
Who brought them here? I'm not really familiar with it. I'm not familiar with it. So like, if they were brought here by other Chinese people?
The United States brought them after slavery was abolished, and they were seeking more labor. So the Chinese was one.
Somebody had to build them railroads.
Yeah,
right.
We built the railroads. Like they may have helped towards the end, but we all know about the John Henrys and all the folklore and them talking about the spirituals while we were building it. So I'm not about to sit here and then give credit to Asians for this infrastructure that was primarily built by like the majority Black Americans. Like, but I'm not really familiar with the Asian slave trade. I don't know about any Asian slave boat. I don't know any fugitive slave laws for Asians. I don't remember them saying Asians can't testify in court or Asians weren't considered human beings or none of that. So I'll have to look more into it because I'm not familiar with this alleged Asian slavery.
It was mostly through the sex trade, from my understanding. They were
like they're doing that
enslaved through the sex trade.
They're doing that now. Like they'll
I'm just saying.
Like they
listen,
bring
don't
other
say slavery in America around Trey. Listen, it's only one. Talk to him.
don't know.
All right, so nonetheless, we about to bring up Unc. Unc, it's been a minute. So Unc put two and a half minutes on the clock. Where you can kind of run all the way through what you feel, and I put probably like another 2 minutes to kind of give panel discussion to whatever you say, and I'll take you back, then bring you back up. Pretty much. Talk to us, Unc. Hold on, let me make sure you good. All right, there you go. Talk to us. Y'all can hear you now.
Y'all can hear me now, right?
Yep.
Yo, I was just saying about how slavery affected everybody, you know what I'm saying, affected most of us. And I said it in the chats, I was saying that people always want to put slavery against Holocaust victims and things like that. And, you know, the thing is, the reason it affects us is because the Holocaust victims, they had nations that was behind them that pulled them out of that. We, on the other hand, we had nobody behind us. And the nation that we was in or that we are in, we sat here and the nation treated us bad. We even went to war to help them out from coming out of they, you know, things, being victims of things. And we came back home and was still treated worse, if not, you know what I'm saying, worse than them in a lot of cases. But nobody never says anything about that, you know. And on top of, I also wanted to say on the, you know, colorism thing, you gotta look at it like, it exists. It might not exist on an everyday basis to some people, but the thing is this right here, you look at certain like female rappers. Now you have Sexy Red, right? Sexy Red, I'm not saying she's the most beautiful woman in the world, but if she was lighter skinned, people will say different things. Because look at Glorilla and look at all her features. If you put darker skin on Glorilla, wouldn't nobody be talking about her like that? And it's just the truth. And it's something that, you know what I'm saying, that exists out here, but people who always want, oh, it exists. It's just something that's there.
So you think Glorilla's problem is she's light skinned? I mean, she's dark skinned. It's not that she twerks in front of abortion clinics and she be talking about doing nasty stuff to her French fries and her dirty draws. It's not because of that. It's because she's.
You said Glorilla did that?
Yeah.
Are you talking about Sexy Red or Glorilla?
I was speaking on both of them. I wasn't.
Oh, no, that was pointed towards Trey.
You about their appearance.
Glorilla did all that.
You said Glorilla did all that?
I think both of them are right.
Yeah.
That sounds like Sexy Red behavior.
They're both. I don't think anybody gets. If Lizzo was lighter or darker skin, she'd still be like a slob. Like,
well, I think that's just because she's big. I think that'd be probably like the.
What does that have to do with anything that I'm talking about?
Because I'm saying that if you make a person, if a person's a degenerate, if they're a light skinned degenerate or if they're a dark skinned degenerate, they're still a degenerate. Like you don't get excuses for degeneracy because you're light skinned. I disagree with that.
This is what I'm going to say. This right here. Do you not remember back maybe about 5 years ago? It was a light skinned dude with a mug shot.
Mm-hmm.
Had lighter eyes and all this stuff. All the women was, you know, they was screwing him. Oh, he even got him a rich woman. Because you don't see that happening with, there's plenty of dark skinned men out here having mug shots. You ain't seen that?
Idris Elba. Idris Elba, Morris Chestnut. There's all kinds of dark skinned men that women are.
What did you say that he is he a degenerate?
Degenerate.
No, I'm not saying he's a degenerate, but I'm saying that
Okay, then
I'm
you
saying
just
that
said
dark skinned men.
degenerate.
I'm saying
You
dark
just
skinned men get
said
love too.
degenerate. Stay on topic. Stay on topic.
I'm saying
Stay on topic.
no.
On
We're
your own
talking
topic.
about
You just
we're
said
talking about
degenerate. You said both
we're
of them
talking
are
about colorism.
degenerate. You
But
talking about no, we're talking about colorism. You bringing something else up had nothing to do with colorism. Calling people pigs or slobs or this, that has nothing to do with colorism.
A dark skinned degenerate who still gets love. I'm sure there's a dark
There you
skinned
go.
degenerate that still gets
My
love.
point proven.
If they got money,
All right.
it doesn't matter. If they got money, if a person's a degenerate and they rich, like P. Diddy's dark and he got what's the name? He got
You're
Cassie.
talking about degenerate. I'm talking about
No,
complexion.
Diddy's a degenerate. So who's another degenerate that got women? Biggie. He was degenerate as hell. He got Faith Evans.
Boy, brother. All right.
Hey, listen, I actually enjoy it. This is my favorite.
Corrected because you still keep talking about degenerates and stuff, and I was talking about one thing, and you put it on a whole nother level. Thank you. All right, thank you. I'm sorry to waste too much of your time.
Hey, listen, I think that this has been my favorite part of the episode right here. I got a good, like, one of those stomach laughs and chuckles off of this one. This was good. Hey, appreciate you. Again, I'm
y'all, man. Be safe and enjoy.
Yes, sir. Love you.
Peace on. Hey, yo, man, one thing caveat that was interesting that I agree with the colorism thing, man, old people, these old niggas, and then also colorism is with women too. Like women, the one talking about good hair, putting on hair from ethnicities. Imagine how goofy a black man would look like with a Donald Trump blonde wig on.
But just making sure you don't believe that our generation participated in colorism and fantasizing about light skinned exotics and things of that nature. No,
not nowhere near these old folks. But these old folks these old people had a whole paper bag test. Like, imagine
you're doing the spectrum thing again. I'm just asking. You don't think that that's something that we participated?
But then what is colorism then? Because I thought it's like racism. Like it's like when prejudice.
Do you think that
colorism
racism
is a system, right?
Do you think that racism is only like only hanging niggas, or is there like a spectrum to racism?
Racism is a system.
Gotcha. So I think that even if we speak about like white supremacy, Afro-pessimism in general, like the idea, like the system is and would be more than anything probably the blacker you are, the worse that you get treated, and that's
other black people,
and that's transcendent across all cultures and everywhere. And so, like the spectrum would be how dark you are and how bad you get treated.
Bro, none of us on this panel treat dark-skinned people any worse than light-skinned people, yet you're saying we're colorists. Like, so it's debunks. We're like walking debunks of that theory.
But how many times do we also say on this panel that we are outliers inside so many different sects of the thing? But you also have heard everybody on the panel give their own experience of seeing, hearing, or dealing with colorism. It's not like is everybody lying about that part too?
And your dark friend said himself, so it's like you don't even trust the source.
No,
you said that, John. You said you think that I get better treatment than you because you're darker than me by other black people.
Yeah, I got one of them as a friend.
But I'm saying, no, do you think if you walk into a room and you're equally qualified with a light-skinned black person and you walk up to another black person,
you're probably going with that light-skinned kid. I promise you.
Dang. Well, I don't really know nobody that.
Hey, Trey, you act like you don't know, like if like we walking both, we both walking up. Maybe not you because you ain't like the lightest, but me and somebody else, we walk up to a little old white lady on the street.
No, we talking about within black people. Like, yes, of course, white people practice colorism. I'm talking about, do black people practice colorism against other black people?
Yeah, guys. I think the point that Trey is making is there's no recourse to colorism. It exists, but there's
But there is a recourse to it, because I mean, like even women in selection is a recourse to it.
Bro, you talking? I said already agree that women have a colorism type. The
I'm
dog sex
talking
is
about how
women.
men choose women.
That's y'all, bro.
It can't like you're using the y'all word with
that's
somebody
criminal.
that has a dark skinned fiance. That like I like that's not a y'all part.
So then, what are you talking about? You just
No,
said black men
but
specifically, but
also
you didn't do that.
pretending
So
like that doesn't exist, and that all of them don't have like these, like if like I sit and I've heard like every every dark skinned black woman that I know speak about the backhand compliments that they might get every once in a while. But
we're talking
how
about when
also the
from
point
when.
of like the Glorilla and the Sexy Red thing was that not the degeneracy as much as the idea that feature wise both of them are not necessarily the most attractive, but one is put on like a higher, cleaner pedestal and
You
has
think
more
one of
money
them is
pushed
on
behind
a?
them.
You think
Well,
which one of them is
Glo-
on a higher, cleaner pedestal?
Glorilla has more money behind her for sure.
Man, nobody's.
No,
She's not
Yeah.
respected. She's not money. I mean, but that's again, who's putting the money behind her? I
Like
think
Sexy Red has Drake, that's about it. But like when you look at like her like Glorilla's features and like the money that's pushed behind her video,
But that,
like you can see the money behind it.
but that's white people picking. Yes, white people do pick light skinned black people. I think
Gotcha.
white people do exercise colorism, but the black people like, nah,
But
turn
black
it
people
off.
just don't
Put
do
on
that
some light.
though.
Yeah, they're like, turn that off. Play me somebody light skinned. Like black people don't do that.
No, but
I mean, even
but
in,
like you don't have to exercise it inside that explicit way. Go A Black.
I was gonna say, even like I saw a lot of interactions about Yvette Carnell and a lot of FBA people were attacking her skin color for saying that, you know, she don't even
That
look.
is almost like the perfect, yeah.
Bro, who was? Are you sure they were?
No, but you see that all the time about even like light skinned revolutionaries and shit
Don't
like
look
that.
fully black. She has
what?
to eat FBA or this movement, and she mixed with this, or she's gay. But I've seen a lot of her skin. Even when Tariq was trashing her, you know, he was bringing up her skin color and her
He
skin.
just called her a stud. Man, I didn't hear her
Yeah,
say.
bro. He called her.
He didn't say that. Yeah, he didn't call. He didn't say anything about like skin color.
Yeah,
bro. Come on, you had to prove that they're FBA that are saying this too, bro. Because I've never seen a black person discriminate against another black person because their skin was too dark. That's crazy as hell.
Yeah, me either. I never seen that.
Seen a black person discriminate against another black person for having.
No, excuse me. I'll say a black man because I do think that a
What
lot of the
about light
beauty
skinned men,
standards.
Trey? Do you think light skinned men face colorism as far as?
But you ain't never heard a man say, "I don't date dark skinned women."
But I think that's preference.
No, sure, but that is still exercising colorism, right?
Well, I think if you have 50 million black people, it's gonna be some people that say that. It's like it's not gonna be 100% of people gonna be like, hey, I don't care what color. It's always gonna be some. It's always gonna be an outlier. Like, hey, I only date light skin. Hey, I only date dark skin. I only date white chicks. There's always gonna be somebody in there.
Right, but if you are choosing based off of the idea of color, that would specifically be colorism. Whether it's like a minute amount or a bunch, but what you're speaking to would like explicitly be like the same way if that same person used race as a thing, you'd be like, well, like that's racism in which they're basing their decision on who they're going to date. Whether they say I only date Hispanics, so I only date black, so I only date fucking Irish or something like that, right? Like that the preference is based off of a race. Same difference with color. If we're saying light, dark, you know what I mean, what brown skin, whatever. The preference sounds like it's based off of a color, correct?
And also, it's cool to have a preference, but then if you ask them why they have that preference, it's usually rooted in anti-blackness or racism, or them bashing black women. You know, it's very rare you meet a black man that prefers light skin or white women. And it just,
I done had dark skinned friends that said I want a light skinned baby.
Yeah,
but that's what I'm saying. That's just them, though. I feel like it's always gonna be somebody like that.
But do you understand how like I don't think that we're saying that colorism is ingrained in every black person, but it does exist. Is like the only thing that we're like people are speaking about right now.
A lot of shit exists.
Yeah, exactly. Everything. yeah, you can find something on each side, but it's like for us to find like, hey, I know 10 people that only date light skinned people and be like, hey, black people have colorism. It's like I don't think that's fair because it's like
But
probably
what
the
if everybody
majority.
on the panel has a story about colorism?
We've
But
all
it's
met a
like,
coon before.
yeah, exactly.
You said we all what?
We all have met a coon before. Like just because we met a coon doesn't mean that we,
all
you
black people
know,
are like that.
Okay.
yeah. Like,
Do you? I
But we
guess
already
like
know
you see how
all black
slippery this
people
would
it
be,
don't fit in the category.
right?
But man, with all
Exactly.
due respect, I think in your generation there was a lot more colorism than there is now.
Watch it.
I mean, just
Watch it. Because it's
respectfully,
not just
because a
my
lot.
generation. That's you. Okay, I was gonna say let's be respectful with that. But I have a 21-year-old who I just told her what you all are talking about, and she's in college, and that's not true, Trey. And she just said that. And when you have to look at some of it's not about right these guys, the males saying, oh, I want if they had to choose between a dark skinned sister and light skinned sister or white, because that's even better for most of them, it still do exist. So you can't say because I'm older, I'm not brown paper bag old, okay, for one. Second of all, that's what I'm saying. I'm
No
seeing it and I
disrespect.
still hear it currently in 2024.
But I think you always gonna hear it just because there's always gonna be people that have a preference. I think you always gonna hear
Yeah,
it, but
no, we're not
I don't
talking
think it's
about
an
a
issue in the
preference. A
community though.
preference is different. But when you're saying that's all,
That's your
is that a
preference.
preference when you saying I don't? You could say what catch your eye, yes, but right, what's the mentality behind that? Because I think Quint said it. You have some people, and stop. Y'all need to maybe because your pool might be smaller. Mine is bigger. I know more people. I know people from younger generation because I work with children all the way up to your age and older. We kind of all over the place. No, it's not a one fix. We all, you know what I'm saying? You can't say it's everybody, but it do exist. When you hear with some women, I want that man because he light skinned, pretty hair, so I can have a pretty light skinned baby. That's
Yeah.
not that
But
old. That's not that
I think
far
how I look at
gone.
it is
Well, I
you
mean,
don't see.
like I
Yeah, go
said,
ahead.
all the way down to my little 7-month-old that I got. Like you hear the
Hmm.
commentary in general, but TBI, like
Yeah,
again, I agree, it is a preference, but I guess all I'm saying is that if your preference is based primarily off of skin tone, your preference is based off of
you
colorism.
gonna say something
But we,
Do
without
you
but
being
we
think
on
all.
some people?
I think we
Quintel?
also gotta leave room
Quintel.
for like
Hmm?
ignorance because it's like it's always gonna be ignorant people as well. It's like we can't get away from it.
Oh
Like
no, for
Quintel.
sure.
if somebody has like
You,
an ignorant, yeah. So it's
Hmm.
like if you're talking to somebody that has an ignorant perspective, and then like, hey, oh, there goes colorism, but it's like, no, this dude's
right,
just an idiot. That's
right.
on, yeah. So it's like we can't base it off of that though.
Hey, so really quick, let me
Can I
interject really
wait? I
really
was gonna
quickly.
ask you real.
So let me make this statement really quickly. So
You can't hear me.
we have about 2 minutes left on this call. It sounds like there's a colorism
You wanna type
conversation
it
that
in?
is left to be able to have. Um, and maybe between next week and a week after that, we'll kind of dive into it because it seems like it's kind of got the juices flowing. This was about slavery, but we made it a colorism conversation. But within these last 2 minutes, I would like everybody that's on the panel to kind of just give where people can find you at. And yeah, I think that's pretty much all we got time for. So G,
Can y'all
I'll
hear
make it
me?
quick.
we can hear you, but we got to kind of wrap it. Go ahead, G.
I'll make it quick. Shout out to everybody listening. Man, make sure y'all hit that subscribe button, notification bell, follow at GSHPOD, wherever you get your podcasts, where we focus on family, friends, finances, freedom, and our future, and fuck everything else. Ha.
Trey.
Was appreciate being on the panel. Don't follow me. Follow the people I follow, which is Tariq Nasheed, Professor Black Truth, Jason Black, Shadow Band Network, and Black Alpha Network. They're putting that work out there.
Hey, Black.
Yo, what's up? Hey, Black. Y'all forgive me. I'm like on jet lag. I'm about to die over here. But follow me at Mayor of Charlotte. Website is blackisgoldx.com. But yeah, see y'all next time.
Yes, sir, Johnny.
Oh yeah, you can catch me at Johnny P. Newton And at the To Be Fair Show, catch me there every Sunday, 4 p.m. Like,
Yep. So I'll round up the panel. We have TBI. Appreciate it. I think this is your second time being up here. Really appreciated the conversation in the back and forth. We had Vovo. He had things to do, but we appreciate you. Kamu, one of our favorites. Heart, Desire, Gifts, Kings Mountain NC. You've seen her on all the shows. But also known as Aunt Sabora to me. And then we got Unc, aka Ses Majid. With that said, tune in next week. We got another great conversation. Appreciate everybody on the panel. Peace, y'all.